A warm welcome to all the delegates and the speakers and fellow consultants uh, for this today's session to celebrate World Food Safety Day. As you are all aware, there are few key milestone days that are being celebrated globally, celebrating quality and safety related milestone days. Today's World Food Safety Day is being celebrated across the globe, and this day is for food and agri products businesses uh, on various issues, on various business related practices, be it standards or certifications on regulations. So, year on year, globally, they declare a theme for milestone days like this, and this is a joint initiative of WHO and then UNIDO and FAO and all those organizations globally, which decide the theme. So this year's theme is actually is food safety, prepare for the unexpected. This is a global call of action, which is designed to create awareness amongst the various stakeholders in food and agri products sector to be prepared for the uncertainties, the unexpected events. Uh, we have seen the largest a calamity or a disaster in the name of pandemic, which has actually shaken the world, the global markets. And in fact, just about last week, if I remember right, a very senior chief scientist, a very reputed scientist globally, has given a warning in the UK, questioned the UK government, saying that if the markets are to witness yet another pandemic, which may strike us anytime, anything is possible, right? With this kind of an experience that we have behind us, are we ready? Are we ready to face the uncertainties that it brings in many ways, in many formats? So governments are not ready. Governments have to really have or should have those disaster management plans or various other plans in place, and somehow the focus is again slipping. This is something which is just about last week I was reading. In fact, many business magazines have carried this globally. So the uncertainties can be in any form, natural or a man-made disasters. We really do not know. The kind of climate change incidents that is kind of shaking us, and food is a very essential sustenance for all of us. And what kind of supply chain systems that are there in the marketplace to offer this assurance and ensure that people get have access to the seamless supplies. The whole team is actually on this. So today's our conference webinar topics, the discussions are also into split into three parts. The first part is actually to focus on this kind of unexpected scenarios that may strike us anytime, and what is the level of preparedness by the industry, be it from the industry perspective or from their supply chain perspective. So we have actually designed this, kind of created the conversations in three parts. The first section is focusing on this readiness of the various stakeholders to ensure that the food supplies, food safety, all these incidents shouldn't affect the food supplies to the end users. The second topic today is about the rising marketplace incidents. See, food safety is everyone's business. See, whether somebody makes it, somebody sells it, somebody consumes it. All of us are responsible when it comes to reporting things or flagging issues when certain things are not all right. It's not just the responsibility of a manufacturer, or a reseller cannot claim that, okay, I'm just a reseller, I'm an aggregator, I'm an online player. I'm a distributor. I'm not responsible for this thing. So you're all part of the supply chain or the value chain. So the rising incidents at the marketplace, where product recalls, flagging of various food quality and safety compromises, and where the assurance that is given to the users is actually on a shaky ground. So the second topic is actually on something related to that. The third one is again seeing flood of misleading advertisements, celebrity endorsements, brand influences, too many health claims on food products, claiming that health endorsements on food products. Too many things are happening, and consumers are too confused. And really, there's a lot of education, digital education happening in the market. In the name of education, only sales and promos campaigns are happening. The ignorance of the consumers is also one of the reasons. And so this is the third part will address about all these issues. So this is about today's topic. This is an initiative from our Consultants Association. Just a brief about us. I represent Consultants Consortium of Chennai. I'm the president. Basically, I'm a management consultant with 3 decades of consulting experience. This association is created, it is a 5-year-old association. Just before COVID, it was formed with the objective to educate the stakeholders at the marketplace about standards, certifications, and regulations. This is our objective. So, since inception, we have been doing marketplace education in various formats, predominantly it's a sector agnostic initiatives, not specific to any sector. We also have another association, which is Pan India, which is created just about a year ago. It's not yet become fully functional. It's a 1-year-old association. It's just 1-year-old baby. These two associations collectively together, we are creating these conversations, inviting experts and speakers who are connected to this space called conformity assessment, which is nothing but your assurance offered, whether it assurance comes from your certification body or an inspection body or a testing laboratory or an accreditation agency or an inspection agency, or it can be your regulator. Everybody is offering an assurance to common man that the product or the service that you're using or consuming has got a assurance stamp on it in the name of all the certifications, accreditations, test reports, and all that. So this is briefly about us. The whole conversation today will be on this topics. Just a second. Is my voice audible? Somebody messaged the voice is too
Yeah,
low.
there is a feedback that.
That's what I'm
Clear.
asking.
There is
Audience, is there an issue? No, not that. Is there an issue with the audio? Can somebody?
No, I can hear you okay, madam.
Yeah, I was okay too, but there are some comments which.
That's what I'm asking. Oh, is this clear?
No, now it says
Now-
okay. Now it's okay.
Fair enough. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Okay. Yeah, because I just saw the message. Yes, sorry for that. So this today's session, we have two hosts, two of our fellow consultants, senior consultants will be hosting this session today. So there will be 3 technical sessions. The technical session will be hosted by me, and we have a technical session 2, which will be hosted by Mr. Murtaza, and technical session 3 will be hosted by Mr. Sridhar. So let me, please allow me to introduce the speakers. It says disturbing audio again.
No, now it's clear, ma.
No, but again, somebody
Jyoti is saying it's a disturbing audio.
something to do with the signals. Let me turn off my video better. Just switch it off. Switch it off. Yeah. So please allow me to introduce our session hosts for today. We have Mr. Murtaza Merchant, who's a senior consultant. Basically, he comes with information security and cyber security, data privacy domain, and he's a professional with a strong experience in cybersecurity, governance, risk management, and compliance. He holds a decade of experience in managing information security frameworks and guiding businesses. So his specialist areas are towards developing policy, standards framework, risk management, compliance assessments, security architecture, and multiple frameworks, cloud implementation solutions, Amazon Web Services, cloud solutions. So Mr. Mutaza will be hosting a session today. Next slide, Aarti. Yeah, we also have our next session host will be Rotarian Mr. Sridhar Rajgopal, the chief mentor for this redefined group of companies. So he's one of our fellow consultants who have actually, they both have volunteered to be part of this and gone through this rigmarole of, trying to creating, designing and coming out with all this, the whole structure. So he has about 3 decades of experience in conducting business risk assessments. And he held various positions in Walmart. That was his industry experience, H&M, Intotech, etc. Has a team of about 28 professionals helping industry to implement multiple sustainable and responsible competitive solutions. A sector agnostic consultant. He also leads an information technology company where they have developed a comprehensive award-winning ESG SaaS-based product industry 4.0 solutions, which are the need of the hour. This is what the market needs. Designed, developed, and implemented social impact projects across the global markets, India, Bangladesh, and Jordan. So this is about today's session host. So we can go to the first technical session. The first technical session today is actually about I think, can we have the slides of the speakers again, please? Yeah. The first technical session is actually about understanding the readiness of various stakeholders at the marketplace to face crisis times. During this uncertain times, natural calamities, disasters that may strike us at any time, how ready is the industry and various other stakeholders, and to ensure that seamless and safe food supplies to population is assured, and avoiding any major health crisis or setbacks, etc. So this session, we have about 2 speakers. We have Dr. Ravindra Kumar, who's representing he's the director, FMB Ingredients, part of IFF's Indian subsidiary, which is Danisco India Private Limited. So Dr. Ravindra Kumar comes with about close to about 35 years of experience in leading various leadership positions in quality and food safety domain. He represents quality and food safety of this particular IFF global chain in South Asia and ASEAN regions. And he's also a lead auditor to qualify the regional suppliers, controlling their supply chain and value chain networks. And so he has been with the food and beverages industry for more than 35 years, specializing in global food safety and quality domains with expertise spreading across regulatory compliances, manufacturing innovation, and due diligence audits. And he's also involved, he provides technology leadership to commercial teams to lead and drive the business growth. And he has worked as a national consultant to Food and Agricultural Organization of United Nations on harmonization of Indian food legislation with Codex Alimentarius Commission. So over to next speaker, Aarti. Yes, let me also introduce Mr. Satish Kumar Gupta. He is the food scheme manager from IRQS, which is a certification body called Indian Register Quality Systems. Mr. Gupta has been a regular speaker in some of our earlier forums also in the previous years. So he has about 20 years of experience, almost about a decade dedicated to management system certifications, auditing, training, accreditation management, He's actively involved in developing part of this ISO technical committees, TC34 and SC17, plays a crucial role in in the advisory group and working group for communication on the food safety management system family standards. And he's also part of the FAD 15, which is a committee for food and agri products in Bureau of Indian Standards. And he serves as a secretary for the BRCGS certification, CB, a co-op group. So we welcome both the speakers. Thank you for joining us today. Now we can proceed with the session. We will invite Dr. Ravindra Kumar to start his session. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Rama, and all my fellow colleagues who are in the call. It's a great opportunity for me to discuss and share some of my views on quality and food safety area, particularly on the crisis management. And for like a hygiene factor, I would like to know how much time we have, because we have started a little bit late. So I should not exceed my time. So Sridhar sir or Murtaja can, yeah.
20 minutes is fine, sir, actually. No issues.
Okay.
Please continue.
Okay. So let me show my, let me share my screen with you. Is it this one? Sorry, 1 second. Yeah. Can you see my screen?
Oh, yes. Full screen mode, please.
Yeah, I will do that right now. Yeah, okay. And once again, thank you very much for the very nice introduction. I don't know whether I deserve that or not, but yes, I do have 34 years of experience spanning in various areas, starting with the National Dairy Development Board, where I was attending some of the Codex Alimentarius meetings also, including the commission meetings. So coming to the industry preparedness for ensuring seamless supplies during unexpected crisis time. We have seen crisis before, and COVID was the most recent one, which is very fresh to everybody's mind. But we as a food technologist or food scientist have to think advance so that any crisis which we may encounter or foresee in future, we can get prepared ourselves. So with this, I have prepared an agenda for you. So first, I want to talk about the importance of food safety. This is very basic, but I think you will understand why, as a food safety professional, we are all interested in the importance of food safety. Then food safety crisis, I have covered in few slides. Then assessing the risk of the supply chain. So there are some practical example which can be used. Of course, you can use it to your advantage, the way you like it. Then we are talking about contemporary approaches to food safety. You know, we have seen, raw material testing, finish testing, and then, releasing the batch. But this is not the contemporary approach. The contemporary approach is all about prevention. Like what we see, if we are sick and then we treat ourselves, the time duration is very, very high. Instead of that, if I go for a vaccination, things are far in control. We have seen that issue as well. So how the industry has prepared, I will touch base upon technical solution versus human factor. You know, what we have seen in our own analysis in my working is that almost 80% of the food safety related issues can be attributed to human factor. So if we can have that human factor well sorted, we can create a very good food safety ecosystem where we can always be proud of. Then approaches for achieving zero. This is a model which I will discuss, and this will give you some snapshot that if industry can think about an approach which is reactive currently to what is interdependent. So I'll take you through that continuum, and you will see how we can achieve that. Last but not the least, I have a model where we will be looking about food safety pyramid, and you see the crisis will be on the top and what is at the bottom. And we see that in all the it's like an iceberg. You see only the 10% of the problem, but 90% is beneath the water level. So if we reduce the water level down, we can actually see more problem and address it better, so that we don't have the problem on the top. With that, I will I'll focus on why we are concerned about food safety. So here it is. We are producing food. All our product should be safe to eat. Very plain and simple. But here I'm adding a twist here. The onus of food safety lies with manufacturer. Rama madam very clearly mentioned that if you get a raw material from somebody and you that person didn't store it well, so the microbial count is high, things like that, that will not work at all. We need to make sure that we take ownership, and when we take ownership, we act also. So that is why I see as an industry, we take complete ownership and we act upon that. Then food safety incident can have huge impact on the businesses. You can see what impact it can have. Business interruption goes without saying. Then diversion of management attention from core business. Management is busy finding new opportunity, expanding the business, ensuring that customers are happy. And if their time goes into this, we are technical people. We should be able to manage this at the ground level. Management attention should be for the growth perspective. So that way we ensure that we also put our efforts for the growth. Then obviously wasted time and effort, loss of customer, loss of market and legal cost, damage to reputation. You have seen a brand reputation is really, really high if there are no related quality or food safety related issues, and can potentially destroy our business. And here I would like to put a simple board here is this: sorry, we are closed. So we don't want this board ever hanging on our businesses. So this will require some effort and attention for ensuring that we always are on top of the food safety related matters. Now, this is the consequence. We did some survey about all this. So safety came the first. Okay. And if you attach food safety and chain, they are the largest respondent. People responded on that. And why? I will tell you. For example, if there is a small incident, happening on the road or something, then only 1 or 2 people will be impacted. If there is a process safety incident, there can be, some release. You saw even Bhopal gas case also. There was a lot of people who were impacted. But in a usual process like boiler going off or something happening, or a fire incident happening, that involves some people. But if you see food safety, this can impact thousands of people. Just one bad thing, and there can be a lot of issues around people's health, and nobody wants to be on that side. So here, I want to give you a hard message here. Always remember, it's about me, it's about everybody. Always remember, our families eat what we make. We are absolutely responsible. The thing which, suppose I'm working in a plant, I make ice cream. My son, my daughter, my brother, my sister, my mother, my father may eat all of this. We don't want that my family to get sick because of my product. So always remember that as the importance of food safety in any scenario. So here, let's focus on zoom in onto the crisis. Significant failure in food safety in recent years. You have seen major recalls, and you get that data as a consultant. Everybody knows this recall data are coming quite frequently, and there can be outbreak. The increased risk associated with this is increased issue of food allergen. And I will tell you why allergens become very, very critical and more resilient and more virulent microorganisms. So this is, microorganisms are also mutating and they are becoming more virulent and more disease causing, etc. So they require a hard cleaning, etc. In order to be getting killed. So here you see, as about 50% of all recall are due to allergen, the FDA, that is US FDA, is very concerned that manufacturers have excellent allergen control program in place and being followed. So this is a very big this thing. And I would say in FSSAI also now recall is mandatory. You should have a recall procedure if you are having a food safety license. So here, how big is the problem? If you see here, CDC in the USA said that 48 million people get sick and 3,000 death happens. And why this thing is happening, I will just mention this. FDA believes that companies distribute contaminated food because they are either do not understand the hazard that cause their food to be unsafe for consumption, or they do not understand how to avoid or eliminate these hazards. Both these situations are not good for industry. So we have to ensure that we understand the hazard and we also know how we can mitigate the risk. So if you see, what are the challenges these days which are being faced? Complex supply chain. We might be getting one raw material from one continent, another raw material from another continent, and a very minor, a specialized coming from third country. So it's very, very complex, and food safety quality management system varies from region to region. So this is a reality. Let's build ourselves to mitigate that and have those things fully under our control in our under our belt. Then consumer demands are increasing. Consumer do not care which company you are or whether you are multinational, national, or even street vending food. They want safe food. They don't want to get sick after eating the food. That is, then there are some emerging threats are imminent. You have seen many times. Then improving epidemiology, very, very important. These days it has become so critical that with the bacteria which is there in the plant versus the bacteria which was found in the dead man can be matched. The DNA sequencing can be matched. So we just cannot escape. If there is a problem in our plant, it will be known. So that's why we want to be on the right side of the law. Disrespect for science. Sometimes we say, no, that's okay. That's too much of expenses. Let's not do that. But let's not disrespect the science. It's important. Then in media is doing a lot of benefit, I would say here, but a lot of digitization is also helping. AI tools are also helping. Litigation, we know that, and new regulations. As you would have seen, US has come up with the FISMA rule. So it's becoming more and more complex to manage the risk. So here, I would like to say one more thing. Industry has greater accountability for food safety and is expected to eliminate foodborne illnesses. Okay, so here, like a management team, it's not it's just in the lighter vein. If we are kind of, like an ostrich, if we put our head in the sand, the danger doesn't go. So we can't just think that it will pass. So we have to face the danger and make the plan accordingly. Assessing the risk of supply chain, risk of the material. What is the inherent risk of the material? We have to understand that. Risk of the supplier. Supplier risk is also there, depending upon what kind of. Then mitigation of risk at the plant level. So we also introduced at the plant level. Then application of the product. What is the end application of the product is also equally important. So total supplier risk will become supplier risk and material risk. And this can be very easily shown to you in a table. If there are green, we are safe. Orange, we have to be cautious. Red is big no. And I would say that FISMA has introduced a new term which is called SACHCODA, serious adverse health consequence or death to human or animal. So we have to be very careful. If there is a raw material which has got SACHCODA risk, then we have to make sure that we have a very good auditing program and very good plan to control that risk. Supplier risk is, I would say, we call it foreign supplier verification, is also very, very important here. Moving on, what are the contemporary approach? I will quickly go on this. It is a mandatory part of all the legislation. Food focus on prevention and science-based standard, and we know that we are now working on that. So the approach is proactive rather than reactive. Then much wider scope, physical, chemical, and microbiological and other preventive controls for human foods. So known or reasonably foreseeable hazard. Earlier, you had to prove that there was a credible evidence. Now, even if it is foreseeable hazard is also there, the FDA can come and shut our shops. Then environmental monitoring, we know that vulnerability and threat, food recall and traceability is becoming important, and then global food safety initiatives. These are the gold standard, I call them, when we manage food safety. So industry who want to really ensure zero food safety incident can focus on these standards. And then third-party auditing. And now all these GFSI standards require that not only you have VACCP, TACCP, but unannounced audit are part of the audit program. Now moving apart from technical solution to manage food safety, human factors play a vital role. So here let's switch gear here. Despite the best management system, we still continue to see high profile recall cases. We have seen that, and we will continue to see that unless we have a proper mitigation plan and human factor fully covered. And I call them psychological safety. If I'm going to my boss or my manager, and if he sees that this is because of me, it's not because of the entire surrounding, then I do not feel psychologically safe. I hide things. That is something we cannot afford in our food safety systems. All cases of foodborne disease and spoilage has common themes. What are these? Food was contaminated with undesirable microorganisms. Microorganisms were allowed to multiply and to unacceptable levels. Number of microorganisms were not sufficiently reduced by treatment meant to kill, or metabolites were insufficiently inactivated. So let's not understand that high microbiology, high count is not the problem. It's the metabolite sometimes are very, very problematic. And you know that Clostridium problem. In our experience, up to 80% are human factor. And let's see, often companies do not include behavior consideration in the context of supplier relationship. They say, okay, we will consider this. This is cheaper cost. This is so that way it will not work unless we have the entire value chain in our control and our people are fully empowered. Behind the primary contribution to foodborne illness are human behavior that can be changed, and I'll tell you how it is going to change. Therefore, addressing food safety issues using an integrated approach that is emphasizing cultural improvement coupled with contemporary food safety management approach is an absolute must. So here we did a small survey. What are the changes we have to see becoming food safety from strategy to execution? And the font size represents the response numbers. So you can see leadership commitment. Unless there is a leadership commitment, we cannot achieve food safety. That is, I would say, it begins and ends with leadership commitment. But then we have to make sure that it is communicated well, it is there in our core values, it is there in our behavior-based program, etc. And let's see what are the levers. The levers to improve food safety is skill development. If I do not understand microbiology, how am I going to control my risk? So I have to have that skill set. I'm not saying microbiology. There are other disciplines as well. All that discipline, for example, if if a plant is facing problem from pest, so entomologist is a absolute required. So you don't have to hire. You can always get a consultant or or a person who can help you with these risk. Okay, this is a very important slide, and I will quickly show you. These are the tools. So first, and we are doing basically there are incident rate and then relative culture strength on the y-axis. Okay, so here what I am seeing is first and foremost is a reactive approach up to culture strength of up to 40, you can say. Food safety by natural instinct. Compliance, because FSSAI says, BIS says, because of this says, we are doing compliance. That is just a start, I would say, in a mitigation plan. Then lack of management involvement. You saw that. Then from reactive approach, we have a dependent. Dependent would mean there is a management commitment, there is a supervisory control, condition of employment. Here, I am making myself that if I don't follow the food safety rules, my employment can be terminated. So this is a very important step. From 40 to 60, you will come like this. Okay. Now the next step is independent. Independent would mean there is a personal knowledge, commitment, standard. We have internalized all that. Personal values are high. Care for self-action. I don't do any action which spoils my product. Practice, habit, individual recognition. But ultimately, where we want to go for from reactive to interdependent. And this is the whole crux of changing the human behavior. Okay, so here I help each other. My safety or my company safety is dependent upon each other's action. If I am seeing something and if I am not saying anything, that means I am not doing a good job. So we are each other connected, or rather interdependent. So here, if I draw a line in the center, you would see that side of the spectrum on the left, you are seeing compliance. But this independent and interdependent, you are actually doing by choice. There is a huge difference between a compliance and choice. Let's focus more on choice side. Even if, you are at say 80% or 75%, you are still good. But ultimate aim is to move to 100. I know it is difficult, but it can be achieved. Now, this is the pyramid. So you would see at the base of the pyramid, there are gaps in GMP, sanitation, personal training, process integrity, procedure, etc. So what you see, leaking water somewhere, some breakage happening, not fixed, or a temporary fix has been done, has not been repaired, and that temporary fix is now also breaking. So all that is this base. Okay. Then you go at-risk behavior. Means the person is doing something wrong because he's using some shortcut, because there is some pressure. So at-risk behavior is again a leading indicator. If you do the leading indicator, then then you will not go up to the top. That is, there won't be micro events and there won't be customer complaints and ultimately recalls. So let's act at the base. And if, like I was giving you an example, if we lower down the water level, we will see what are the at-risk behavior, what are the GMP gaps we have, so we can achieve that. Where there are different layers in the organization, and I tell you, I have divided into 3 parts. Frontline needs more knowledge, will, and skill. But middle management will need skill, more knowledge, and will. But the top leadership needs will. And it is the will which will carry us forward. If the top management is not having that will that we can make a change, the change will not happen. And you saw in the survey also, the leadership commitment came at the top level. Okay, so this is very critical here. The one hard-hitting sentence I'm going to put: the lowest standard you accept become the highest standard you can expect. If I'm going in a plant and if I see something wrong and I don't say anything, that means every time this will be done, and more so when you are not there, it will be more prevalent. So it's very important to keep that in mind, that we should not at all um, uh, accept a inferior standard when we have a standard SOP working. So we should always, if you see something, say something. Last, I would like to say, food safety must be adopted as a company-wide value. And when I say front of mind recall, we are, food safety will not be done as an afterthought. I have internalized it. I am going to work upon it. So it has to be then and there, and not, no, I will come tomorrow and address it. It's not like that. Okay. It is harder to manage a microbial hazard than a chemical hazard. You know that. A continuous focus should be placed on building risk management skill to ensure that employee know the risk, understand the crucial nature of the risk management, and effectively manage those risks. This is again the same thing. It's better to be to move from reactive to preventive. We saw that. Okay. The technologies, operating procedure, testing, and auditing are aligned to global standard. We have to have that gold class. Then the workforce is trained, skilled, and empowered. If we don't empower our workforce, then we are not doing a good job. Communication and collaboration within the organization and across the value chain is encouraged. One side can learn from another side. The other thing which I want to say here, food safety not to be used as competitive advantage, because all of us are impacted. I do not want any of the manufacturing side producing a inferior product or a food safety compromised product. So there should be a free flow of this information. Quality can be advantage. Quality can be a secret, but food safety, let's try to percolate to people, freely share and exchange. Quality and food safety will need to become part of DNA of the companies who have long-term vision. If you are short-term, want to make quick money, then that is not the right approach. We have to make sure that it is ingrained in us. It is in our DNA. So lastly, I would say, let's take a pledge. All food safety incidents can be prevented. We know we can do it. And when I am looking at the mirror, I'm saying to myself, it's I who can change it. With this, I would say thank you to all of you. Of course, there is a Warren Buffett standard, very, very important quote. It takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. If you think about that, you will do things differently. Very hard hitting, I would say. I always practice. If you are in dilemma, then practice these. With this, thank you. And if there are any questions, we can take it now, or I will stay back as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Over to you, Rama.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for that insightful session, Dr. Ravindra Kumar. A couple of nice takeaways from your session. The opening statement you made, the food made by you is also used by your families. That should be the organizational vision and mission, technically speaking. But this is what consumers are asking today. Do you offer this kind of recalled products or kind of products which have got compromises to your own family members? Do you do this to your own family members when you're selling it on us? So that's a very nice takeaway. And I personally like that the tools to achieve zero food safety incidents. That's a very powerful a takeaway. And food safety pyramid also that you had shown us. Skill gaps and needs at various layers is also an interesting slide, actually. How is it should be at the top layer and middle level and then at the bottom of the pyramid. And the last, your conclusion says it all. At the end of the day, these are all your vision and mission statements, what we see at industry corridors, business houses. Ultimately, it's a question of a strategy or a culture. So what we are seeing is, the post-liberalization, the strategies actually which are eating the culture of the organizations for breakfast. So unless your strategy is right, okay, culture takes a backseat. Thank you so much for that wonderful opening presentation. Thoroughly enjoyed. We will take the Q&A if you can actually stay with us, maybe after Mr. Satish's session. Maybe, collectively we can take the questions from the audience. I hope it is fine with you, right?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So we'll move on to the next session by Mr. Satish Kumar Gupta. And his topic is, just give me 1 second. Digital really helps. Yes, we have the next session by Mr. Satish Kumar Gupta, who's from IRQS. And the topic is obligation of FSMS towards regulatory compliance. This is a topic which will have lots of questions, I guess, because this is one of the hottest topics at the marketplace. How connected are the assurance teams with the regulatory frameworks, be it the domestic market or in the international market? So it's a very interesting topic, and it's a hot topic at the marketplace. Most often we are hearing these questions. What are they checking? What are they auditing? Why is it that regulatory side is not touched in your conformity assessment? So maybe we would like to. So is there an obligation on the part of FSMS audit teams towards regulatory compliance? We would like to hear your views. Over to you, Mr. Satish. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, in every webinar, we ask a question whether my screen is visible and am I audible. So just to confirm.
Affirmative.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
audible.
So it is in the slideshow mode.
Yes.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. Thanks. So it was a very good session, the previous session. There will be some overlaps of the previous session, but yes, I will try to stick to my topic of the obligation of FSMS, that is the food safety management system, towards the regulatory compliance. So how these two are interlinked in terms of the FSMS and the regulatory compliance, we will see in the next few minutes. The agenda of the topics which I will be covering in this session is the understanding FSMS. What is the meaning of FSMS in the different contexts? Maybe it is FSSAI or in general form. What is the importance of the regulatory compliance? How these two are linked, whether we are talking about achieving compliance with FSMS, and finally the takeaways of the conclusions and the questions. Now, before I take this platform to just introduce my organization of IRQS. We as an organization, IRClass System Solutions Private Limited, we belong to our parent organization, Indian Registered Shipping, which is into ship classification. And in 1993, we came up with a division. IRS came up with a division of Indian Registered Quality Systems, which was into ISO certification and training. And later in 2014, it became a formal entity as IRClass System Solutions Private Limited. And IRClass became one of the division of ISSPL. And we also have a testing vertical, testing services, a laboratory in Jaipur in 2022 that was established. And these are some of the portfolios which we handle in terms of certification, training, food audits, if you see. And I'm happy to say that we are the first certification body in India for BRCGS and FAMIQS for getting the NEBCB accreditation. We are also coming up with sustainability as a vertical, as well as IT and AI. Now, coming to the topic which we have of what is FSMS. When we talk about FSMS, it is Food Safety Management System, which is a very structured, a systematic approach of identifying, preventing, or reducing the food safety hazards or the risk in the food products. So this food safety management system helps us to reduce the food safety hazards in the food products. It helps or provides a framework for ensuring the food safety and quality throughout the food supply chain, from the farm to the fork. When we talk about the regulatory standard, it also helps as a part of the regulatory standards. It is designed, when we talk about FSMS, it is designed to align with the international standards of the ISO 22000, as well as if you see any ISO standards or any standards for food safety, if you see, not only food safety, any management system standards or a private standards, if you see, it talks about the statutory and the regulatory compliance. So it both are interlinked. When we talk about FSMS, it is like food safety management system, or we talk about a regulation, both are interlinked. So FSMS requires the regulatory compliance to be taken into consideration, or regulatory compliance expects that you should have a basic FSMS in place, which helps in ensuring the compliance with food safety laws and the standards. And the third component of the pillar of the FSMS is the risk mitigation. By implementing these FSMS, the food business operators can proactively address the potential food safety hazards. Now, the very important word is not only the known hazards, but also the potential hazards to protect the consumer health and ensuring the compliance with the regulatory requirements. But what about FSSAI? When we talk about FSSAI, what is the meaning of FSMS as per FSSAI? Now, as per the Act of 2006, or the Food Safety Standards Act 2006, it defines FSMS. So you can see that even the law, the Indian law or the regulator has given a definition of FSMS. That means it forms the basis for implementing or regulating the food product or the system in your organization. So it defines FSMS as the good manufacturing practices, the good hygienic practices, hazard analysis critical control point. That means the second element of FSMS is HACCP, that is hazard analysis critical control point, and the other practices and the regulations. Then when we talk about FSSAI, it is not only the, I always call it as like the schedule 4. People see that FSSAI means only it is like the SAFSAFAI. It is not only about cleanliness or the GMPs and the GHPs. It is including the HACCP, that is a hazard analysis, critical control point, and the other product regulations, Indians, the code of practices or the industry standards, etc. All these comprises together to form the FSMS, that is the Food Safety Management System. Now, what are the components of FSMS? Now, as I was saying that when we talk about FSMS, we also have to know the regulation. Or when we talk about regulation, we need to know about the base, the foundation as the food safety management or the food safety plan or the food safety management system. So first is you need to understand the regulation. That is, what is the applicable regulation for which you are operating? If you are preparing a product, what is, if you are exporting it, what is the regulation required for the country of destination? If you are giving it to a domestic market, then what is the regulatory requirements for that particular product where it is going? So you need to know what is the applicable regulation. That is very important. Second is, as I said in the previous slide, hazard analysis. Know the hazards, whether it is physical, chemical, biological, allergens. What could be the cross contact? Some people say that, oh, my product is not having any allergens, or it is an allergenic product. Like if I go to a dairy industry, they say that milk itself is an allergen. So how could be the my product itself allergen, and people know that it is a dairy product or a milk product? But what could be the other cross contact? Like if a person is having a peanut in the canteen or an eating area, and he has not washed his hands properly, and what could be the chances of that hazard getting into your product, into your facility? That also needs to be looked into. What controls do you have it for that? So hazard analysis should be very much, as it was rightly said, that hazard analysis is a preventive. It is preventive. It should not be reactive. Oh, I got this issue and therefore I start reacting to it. No, hey, you need to do it before it occurs. So you need to have a preventive approach for this, and therefore the hazard analysis has to be very, very robust. And that is something which is found very weak in most of the organizations, where the hazard analysis is just done only for the sake of doing it, but you need to see that it is being done correctly. Good manufacturing practices, the good hygienic practices, the PRPs, what you have it in place. Traceability, very important, from farm to fork, from where you are getting the product, which supplier it is, what is the ingredients which is going into the your final product, which batch number it is. Sometimes people say that it's a very minuscule ingredient, and therefore we have not maintained the traceability of which batch it has gone into. You are making a cookie or you're making a biscuit, and you don't know which flavors or which any small ingredient or a color you are adding it, a food color you are adding to it, but they don't maintain any traceability. If that goes wrong, then how do you ensure that you have to recall a product, or you need to ensure the traceability? That becomes a question. So that needs to also be ensured. And when you're talking about FSMS, food fraud prevention and a food defense, like you must have heard about a case that the needle found in the strawberry, or any counterfeiting, or in case of mislabeling or a substitution product. Food fraud also needs to be looked into when you're doing a hazard analysis. Food defense, yes, if someone has a criminal mind, so they can also create a threat to your product. So you need to see that that has also been taken in terms of your infrastructure, in terms of your product, in terms of your security. You need to see that that is also being considered when you are talking about the hazard analysis and the GMPs. Allergen management, as we discussed, as we just cited about it, that allergen management should be in place, not only for the products which you are handling, but also from the cross contact of the other allergens which could be potentially come into or come in contact with the main ingredient or the main product. Food packaging and labeling. How could packaging play an important role? What are the labeling requirements or the labeling norms to be followed for the regulator, or in where you are producing it, or the country of destination? Finally, record keeping, documentation, very important. Sometimes people say we have done the metal detector inspection, but I have not kept a record for it. See, the whole exercise becomes futile if you do not keep a record of the important critical parameters. So that is also very, very important. Training and education, as rightly said in the previous, my speaker said about competence. So that is very important, that people should be aware of what are the hazards, what could be the hazards, what are the regulatory requirements required. So they should be educated. If they don't know, how will they anticipate that this could be a possibility if I keep my product out, or a perishable product, for 4 hours outside? What could be the chances? That trigger has to be there inside. That trigger will come only if they are educated and they are trained in the particular activity in which they are carrying it. And finally, is what you do everything. You need to also see that the audit, not only I'm talking in terms of the third party audit, but also have an internal audit, a robust internal audit, so that you can find out where are the gaps, what actions you need to take, how you need to proceed further, so that you can improve continuously. So these are all the components of FSMS. So, and this also forms the basis of a regulation as well, that we will see in the further slides. Now, what are the benefits of FSMS? Now, if you have all the components set in your system, obviously you are giving a assurance that it is complying to not only the food safety requirements, but also the regulatory requirements. Because you need to take it. I always say that it cannot be standalone, that FSMS is one thing and the regulatory requirement is another thing. It is both interlinked. So you need to see that the compliance assurance will be achieved if the FSMS or the food safety management system is effectively implemented. Obviously, if that is the case, it will give a consumer confidence. You will have less number of product recalls, or in terms of the financial losses or the customer complaints. So that will give a consumer confidence. And finally, it will lead to an improvement in your organization. You will see yourself. When I started implementing HACCP way back, like it was in 2002 somewhere, when 20,000 or these private standards were not there. That time when we were implementing HACCP, it was quite challenging. But when we implemented, we could see the fruits of it. That yes, the customer complaints came down, or the number of internal non-compliances, or the non-conformities, or the rejections, or the testing which we were doing it, all this had come drastically down once you implement the system. So obviously, when you implement a proper, a good, effective, the correct way of the FSMS, it always leads to a continual improvement. Implementation of FSMS, as you can see, the first point itself, it requires a strong commitment of the top management. The senior management is the commitment, or the accountability has to be there. And if you see the standards which are coming up, they also talk about it, that the top management is need to be committed towards the food safety. Or you cannot say, oh yes, he's there to represent our organization and he's taking care of it. No, whatever he does, it needs to be supported by the top management. So the senior management commitment is very, very required, and it is imperative. Employee training, as I said, they need to understand the roles and responsibilities, what activities they are doing it, as well as what could be the consequences if they do not perform the activity correctly. So they need to be trained. Bang, bang, bang. You need to recharge. Though they are trained, you need to see that they are doing their work properly. So that needs to be continuously done in the organization. And auditing and review. So you also need to see that there is a self-evaluation or a self-internal audits done, as well as to review it, to assess whether how they are performing and what needs to be done next. Now, when we talk about FSMS, so this was all about the first topic of FSMS. Now, what is a regulatory landscape? When we talk about the regulatory landscape, it's the food safety regulation, whether it is the domestic regulation, whether it is the international regulation, where the food products are made, whether it is the product regulation, the packaging regulation, the labeling regulation, whatever regulation is there, you need to see that the food regulation or the food safety regulations for the country where you are supplying your material needs to be known to you. The local compliance requirements, that is the domestic regulations, and the industry standards, that is also equally important to be aligned with your regulatory requirements. As you know, when you are complying to the regulatory requirements, the business reputation will lead to a brand integrity. Obviously, there will be no market complaints or the product recalls, which will lead to a risk, which is a risk to the a reputational damage associated with the food safety incidents will all be reduced, or the brand will be not at stake. Market access, that is the compliance with the food safety regulations, facilitates the market access and the competitive advantage in terms of differentiating your organization in terms of the business and to gain the consumer preference. Now, how do these two are linked in terms of the FSMS and the regulatory compliance? What you need to do further? The FSMS implementation process, where you can do a gap analysis, where to find out what could be the gaps in terms of your maybe the regulation or the FSMS. You need to see that there is the gap analysis done to identify the non-compliance and to develop a roadmap to align into the existing processes of your FSMS requirements. Resource allocation in terms of not only the manpower, but also in terms of the infrastructure or any other technology required for the implementation and maintenance of FSMS. And see that you integrate the FSMS with the regulation or the regulatory requirements in your FSMS. Do not do it discretely. Try to integrate both the entities. As I was talking about the training and awareness, training is very much required. That is the employee training programs to educate your employees on the FSMS requirements, see that the competence. Sometimes I see a arts person is leading the team. It's okay. I can understand if you have delegated not from a science background. But yes, the question comes here is how has the organization made him competent in terms of the awareness, in terms of the food safety requirements? I was attending, or I was in a meeting with, there were a lot of agencies with the FSSAI, and there the question was, we find a lot of issues when we go for our third-party audits. And not only the third-party certification audits, but also the mandatory audits of FSSAI. That when we go for the audits, they are not aware of the FSSAI requirements. Now, FSSAI has made a very, I think, a good, a requirement that every organization should have one FOSTAC trained supervisor. Now, in spite of this FOSTAC training, which is mandatory, where it is linked to the, the license, since when we go to the site, we don't find a people or a person who is FOSTAC trained. Then we need to ask them, who is a FOSTAC trained supervisor here? What is FOSTAC here? Now, if they don't know FOSTAC, how are you expecting that they are aware of the Schedule 4 requirements? So that becomes a question, that how are the Schedule 4 requirements, I'm talking in terms of the Indian context, that how are they, they aware of the regulatory requirements in terms of the FSSAI. If they are not aware of the basic Schedule 4 or the hygiene requirements, then how do we expect that they will be aware of the product regulation? What are the microbiological parameters for which they need to get tested, or the chemical parameters, etc., or the packaging regulation, the labeling regulation, etc., how these people will function. So the employee training is very, very important, not only in terms of the employee training, but also the cultural transformation. If you see, the US FDA has put into food safety culture as one of the requirements as a part of the regulation. So now it is very much important that the food safety should come from within. It should be from inside. It should not be that, oh, I'm wearing a cap or I'm wearing my gloves when I'm handling the product because someone is looking at me. No, it should come from inside, that yes, if I do not wear this, or the pasteurization temperature has not achieved, or the cooking temperature has not been achieved, or if I don't wear the gloves, or if I don't follow the hygienic practices, it will lead to a food safety consequences. Okay, so that cultural transformation is required. The food safety culture has to come inside everyone. Every person has to take the ownership of the activity which they are performing. And finally, the continuous communication. We're establishing the different channels of the ongoing communication in terms of the feedback from the different stakeholders or internal in the organization, are informed and engaged in compliance efforts. When we talk about all this from the FSMS and the regulatory, auditing and verification becomes important. If you see any standards of FSMS, it talks about internal audit, or the regulatory compliance of FSSAI, or any other regulation. They talk about the self-evaluation. So FSSAI also has a lot of checklists available on the website. You can go, you can self-evaluate it and find out what are the gaps in terms of the regulatory requirements, or in terms of when you talk about the FSMS in terms of the food safety management system. Identify the non-conformities and implement the corrective action. When you have done your internal audits, you can go for your third-party verification, maybe in terms of the certification, or even in your terms of your the FSSAI as per the regulation. You can go for independent verification in compliance with the FSMS or the regulatory requirements, which will lead to the continual improvement to use these audit findings to enhance the effectiveness of FSMS in ensuring the regulatory compliance. Now, the demonstrating compliance could be through the documentation management, where you need to see that you have your procedures, your the HACCP documents, your verification, your product testing, in terms of the licensing requirements. All these documentation management are in place. Regulatory reporting, ensure timely and accurate reporting to regulatory authorities if there is any case of an incident or a product testing results, or and the compliance documentation. And finally, the certification recognition, for going for any certification. For maybe these are some few of them which is on the screen, of 22,000 or FSSC or any other certifications to validate your compliance with the international standards and industry best practices. Now, before I go for the next slide on the conclusions, even the ISO standards, there was a discussion in the ISO standard in the last day when I was in the meeting, where in every ISO standard, there is if there is a requirement that the organization shall follow, or they need to consider the statutory and the regulatory requirement. ISO has decided now to remove this statutory and the regulatory requirement word from the standard. Why? Because they expect that if they are implementing the management system standards, they are expected to follow the law of the land. So they will be removing this word that is in the process of the discussion of the removing the statutory, because some places it is written, some places it is not written. So FBOs or the organization say, oh, it is not written here, so there is no requirement of a lawyer or a regulatory requirement to be considered. But no, that is not the case. So that is the thing. What I'm trying to convey here is both are interlinked. When you follow a standard or when you follow a regulation, you need to see that both are interlinked, and therefore they are not binding it to mention that word. It may be in the future standards, this will be out of the the standard as well. So the final conclusion, the takeaway here is, have the right person for the job. Make your person competent for what they are doing it. And maybe in terms of the education, training, whatever the way you want to do it, see that the person is competent. One person is known or aware of the food safety requirements in the organization. Self-evaluation, do your self-evaluation, your internal audits, so that you come to know where you stand and what need to be done further in terms of the FSMS or in the regulatory compliance. Training and awareness, as I said, create a good HACCP or a robust hazard analysis critical control point. Just don't do it or a copy paste from somewhere. See that it is tailor-made with your organization, with all the potential risk or the hazards that could be potentially possible in your organization or the product which you're handling. Testing and analysis by a competent accredited lab, because this is the results which helps you to decide whether your product is in conformance to the regulatory requirements. And finally, a third-party verification. So I can just conclude it that one thing is there, that you cannot achieve food security without a proper or an effective FSMS with the regulatory compliance in place. And one thing what will not change is we have to prepare for the unexpected. That will continue, though it is a theme of 2024, but we need to still continue to or be prepared for the unexpected, so that we can trust the food which we consume. So that's it from my side. Thank you for your attention, and I'm happy for if there's any questions from anyone.
Thank you so much for that wonderful session. I was just posting in our group. We always enjoy Mr. Satish sessions, very informative, year on year, and clear-cut communication. Thank you for joining us, accepting our request every year. I keep making one request to Jury sir: no speaker should be repeated. Don't call the same people again and again. But then he says some topics, some speakers can speak, and that is one of the reasons. Maybe year on year, your topics are different. There's so much of, learning for all of us. That is why we call the sessions as Learn, Unlearn, and Relearn series. All of us are learning something new every time. Couple of questions from the audience, and after that, this host will always ask questions. I would love to ask questions, 1 or 2 questions from me, but I would like to first check with the audience. Just nice key takeaways, actually. The country of origin to country of destination compliances. That is something, that's a beautiful statement you made, but industry is not kind of getting it mixed up. Their understanding of country of destination is they map it to country of origin regulatory framework, they're applying it on a country of destination. That gap is always there. And so still we are, especially after COVID, seeing a lot of COVID enterprises that have come to the market. And food is one segment, because I'm part of various industry associations and chambers of commerce, and food and agri products conversations happen regularly. And I get a lot of inquiries. We've got an order online. Okay. We don't understand. They're asking us to show some certificate. We're just new to the business. We're able to get the business. We're flooded with orders, especially they're all happening with agri products. Like millets and all that, So every small entrepreneur also is getting a lot of orders, global orders.
Yes,
but the
that's
rest
right.
of the issues, they don't understand. So it's very tough. And they say, FSSA itself, they don't understand, or your APIDA and all this and various other ones. And then they're applying this regulation and saying that we are compliant here. So why are you asking us to go for all this? So this is a communication which is still not happening effectively. And so people still think that FSSAI is also responsible for exports and compliances of the country of importing countries, country of destination. That clarity, more such clarity is needed for the businesses. Because there is a regulatory journey of a business from point A to point B,
Yeah.
but they're not understanding, mapping those requirements. And that compliance assurance also you touched upon in one slide. I will ask you my question later that you touched upon in one
Okay.
slide. Country of origin or country of destination, which assurance that you're talking about? When you say compliance assurance as a third party CB,
Yes.
do you look at the country of origin or a country of destination compliance, or do you check both? And
Shall I answer? Yeah.
yes, please.
Yeah. So when we talk about the country of destination, you need to follow the regulation where you are exporting your product. So suppose if you are giving or supplying your product to India, you need to follow the Indian regulation. If you're supplying your product or exporting your product to Europe, so you need to see that your European regulations are being followed. So you need to see which country of destination, where your product is going, in which market it is going. So that is one thing which we need to see, that your product is in compliance with the product regulation or the labeling requirements of that particular country. And when we talk about the country of origin, is it where you have produced it? If it is a fish which has been taken from an Indian territorial water, then I'll have to mention that the country of origin is India. So that is the country of origin. And country of destination is the where you are supplying it.
Industry doesn't know, but are you checking is what we are asking. CBs,
Ah,
you check both. That was my question. Industry
yes,
doesn't know.
yes, we do check it because that is a part of the requirement of the standard, that what regulation they are following it. So that we have to see and we have to look into. I'll just throw one light here, that when we do a third party audit, we are not regulatory auditors. So what we do is we check in a holistic way whether they have considered the regulatory requirements when they are doing they have set up their standards or they have set up the requirements. But when we do a regulatory audit, then we do thoroughly check about the in terms of the product compliance. That's I hope I've answered the
Just one
question.
more. Just one question. You also mentioned about industry standards have to be in compliance.
Yes.
One of your slides. So can you give me an example of an industry standard that we have in food sector? I presume industry standards are different from voluntary standards, right? Because industry standards are developed jointly by industry organizations or by industry corridors.
So industry standards could be like the fish sector or the spice board. So these standards which are there, like for the fish sector, the MPDA has given it, or the IC has given some standards. So that also they need to follow from the fish or the marine sector point of view.
But my understanding of an industry standard is slightly different. That's why I wanted to ask, because those are the regulatory specs basically. Industry standards are generally developed by industry associations, corridors, and something like that. Some voluntary schemes are there. Fine, fair enough. Because I wanted that clarity when you meant industry standards have to be in alignment.
I intended that. Yeah.
Oh, right. Fair enough. It is very clear now. Thank you so much. Just one or two questions from the audience. We have requesting delegates to post the questions in the Q&A box, please. It's easy to retrieve. Actually, chat box, when you post, it's a little tougher to retrieve. That is why you have a Q&A box here. Shantanu ji is one of our senior food safety consultants. He's got a question. FSSAI 2006 talks about food prevention and food defense. Is that a question? Yeah. What FSSAI 2006 says about food prevention and food defense?
It talks about food prevention, but I am not so sure about food defense. Right. Very explicitly talking about a food defense. Like in the USFDA, they talk about the food defense or the food fraud. But in FSSAI, I have not seen a food defense as such.
Could any FBO have FSSAI license without having any national or international FSMS standards?
Good question. See, FSSAI says that you should have a food safety or the FSMS plan in place. It doesn't say that you should have a certification. So when you say talk about a plan, that becomes easier when you take a certification. So what is the FBO doing? They are taking the ISO or the any other private standard certification, and then they give it as a part of the the prerequisite for the license or when they apply for the license. But FSSAI is expecting a FSMS plan. If I go for the correct interpretation of what the FSSAI is expecting. But then FSSAI plan, so FSMS plan becomes easier when they have a certification in place, like the hazard analysis. What is FSMS plan basically? It's the hazard analysis of the critical control point. So that is the plan in place and it becomes easier.
Let me ask Dr. Ravindra Kumar's view on the same query. Now, this is your
Yeah.
CB's view. Now, I would like to have the industry's view, sir. Could any FBO have the license without having any of the standards?
Yes.
I think I will tend to agree with Satish sir here. The reason is that it says FSMS plan, and that can be a piece of paper also. But the thing is that when you step into a factory, you immediately come to know whether they have a certifiable standard or they have a third-party standard. Right from the the way you enter, when you make an entry there, how people greet you, it becomes absolutely clear. So those, as I was telling you, long-term player want to build that into their DNA, and that is where they will unambiguously say that hey, although there is FSSAI requirement is this, but we are going beyond that. So it's very important that all these companies will invariably have those standards in place.
Next question. In a nutshell, Mr. Mukund Shankar wants to know the clear-cut difference between FSSC 22,000 and ISO 22,000.
Okay, shall I?
Yes.
Okay. FSSC now has two standards, FSSC 22,000, which is a food safety system certification, and one more is there on FSSC 24,000, which is on sustainability. Therefore, now it is very important to tell that it is FSSC 22,000 and
Yes.
or 24,000, because now there are two standards. Now I understand the question because it is related to 22,000 and it's a food domain. So
Yes.
FSSC 22,000 and ISO 22,000. FSSC 22,000 comprises of three standards: ISO 22,000, some PRP standards, and FSSC additional requirements. So in short, I can say that ISO 22,000 is a subset of FSSC 22,000. Because
Okay.
that is one of the element of FSSC 22,000. And FSSC is a GFSI benchmark standard. ISO is not a GFSI standard yet. So that gives a more weightage in FSSC, that their name comes on the public register. Now we have search, so everyone's name could be available on the public domain. But yes, FSSC, the GFSI benchmark standards. So as compared to the ISO 22,000.
You mean to say that all ISO 22,000 can migrate to FSSC 22,000?
Perfect, right? It becomes easier for them to transit to the FSSC standard because they already have a base of one of the elements in place, that is ISO 22,000.
And
Sorry.
now FSSC has gone to a higher version where you are going to be hit by unannounced audit as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
Unannounced
you cannot
audits?
escape unannounced audit now.
That's nice. At least
Is
now
that correct, Satish sir?
Yeah. Actually, this is there from 2018 that one of the audits in once in 3 years should be unannounced. Usually the
Unannounced,
surveillance
yeah.
audits are unannounced audits since 2018.
Yeah.
Yes, 2000.
Okay. Just last question from Mr. Puncho, Jamian Puncho. He's from our forum. Why national standards are not normally adopted by the regulators? I don't know whether he means domestic or international, but national standards are not normally adopted by the regulators is a question. Do the regulators recognize national standards? We have BIS in the country. There's a national standards body, or do they always prescribe an international standard? That's the question coming from him.
What I
What does the
understand
FSS
is
what does FSSAI say? Do they recognize BIS national standards first?
for
Sorry.
some of the products like the feed and all that, they have the IS standards, that is the BIS standards,
Mm.
which is in place.
Yeah.
So
Milk
they do
powder.
follow, yeah, the cattle feed is there, or for some aquaculture, something is there. They follow, they have made it like, they have to follow, like even the packaged drinking water. So they have the IS standards. So they have the BIS standards are taken into consideration.
Not for all, only for few sectors.
Yeah, well, no, only for a few, like for the packaged drinking water, even for the what do you say, skim milk powder,
Yeah.
the SMP, and so there are certain products which has where they need to follow the BIS standard. And anyway, if you see FSSAI standards or FSSAI regulation, they are coming in par with the the international regulations or the standards. So if you see the schedule 4 which has been taken is from the the international standard itself, so from the regulation, so that we are also coming in par with that as well. So
And that is part of harmonization, madam. Just
yes.
add on. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So food is everybody's business. This conversation made us realize this. Thank you so much for joining us today, for sharing your wonderful insights. There are no more questions. If at all there are any questions, request the delegates to post your questions in Q&A box. Maybe we'll ask the speakers to respond over the chat box. We have come to the end of the technical session. Atik, can we have a pick with all the speakers? Can I request all the session hosts also to turn on the videos, please? Mr. Murtaza, can we request you to turn on your video, please? Yes, it's not available. Anyhow, you can take the script. Thank you. So with this, we have come to the conclusion of the technical session 1, and we will move on to the technical session 2, which will be hosted by Mr. Murtaza. Over to you, Mr. Murtaza.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Murtaza Merchant, and just a quick intro for people who are just logged in. My specialty is basically cybersecurity, business resiliency, and food regulations. Yes, something new that I want to venture into also. And I see certain things coming into where cybersecurity might be play up there, because quite a lot of these industries are now having computer systems. Manufacturing might be controlled through computer systems, and which is where the cybersecurity requirement comes in. A little bit of change in adding components, and we can land up into trouble. So the technical session 2 is basically going to talk more about marketplace incident discussions and the kind of things that go wrong. How are we going to regulate? What kind of incidences happen? Why are people worried about food products? What is the role of product testing, the lab testing for contaminants, etc., etc. So to kick the session off, my first speaker is Mr. Palani Kumar, and he's going to be talking on the challenges that are faced by the multiple food regulations, and how does the global industry face these regulatory challenges. Over to you, Mr. Palani.
Good afternoon, one and all. Am I audible?
Yes, please.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, my absolute mistake. I forgot to introduce Mr. Palani here. Let me just share my screen here.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, Mr. Palani.
Yeah, it's okay. No problem. Please carry on.
There we go. So Mr. Palani is the Assistant Director in the Fish and Fishery Products Export Inspection Council Department, with 23 years of experience in food safety and regulatory affairs, 11 years in seafood processing industries. Currently, he's working as the Assistant Director, as I said, in the fisheries scheme of EIC. He's a technical expert of NABL and good authority on peanut products, fishery products. And he is pretty very well trained with all the regulatory bodies, yeah, including the ones which are countries that import from India, like DG and USFDA, DEFRA, etc. So he's very well versed with the regulatory requirements, and hence a very good authority on what he kind of says: prepare for the unexpected. With food industry, anything can be unexpected any point of time. So over to you, Mr. Palani.
Yeah, thank you very much for the introduction. Me. I hope the slide is visible in the slideshow
Yes.
mode.
Full screen mode. Yes, it's visible.
Yeah, thank you very much, madam. Yeah, once again, good evening to one and all. So here the topic which it's given to me is the meeting challenges of multiple food regulations, the global market. Yeah, if you look into the global agri-food export, it is growing, and in the year 2018, we were with the US dollar of 1.8 trillion, and now the present share of India is, we are in eighth place, and the value of the export which we have carried out in the year 2022-23 is 53.1 billion. And the food safety and standards are crucial for facilitating the trade and ensuring the consumer protection and harmonizing the regulation across the border, which will result in the sustainable development in this, is a significant. And there are, when we talk about the across the borders, yes, the importing countries, the regulation, it has to be met by the exporting country like India. So there are challenges. So those impacts, I'm trying to brief it in the coming up slides. And then, as a certification body, as a competent authority for the notified commodities like fish and fishery products, basmati rice, and the black pepper to USA, and honey. There are a few more products. Total 14 products are notified, and which is been regulated and certified, and by the AIC. So there are strategic initiatives and practices by the AIC, which is I'm going to brief you. Ensuring the food safety across the border, it's a complex activity, and global supply chain presents its numerous challenges. So these multiple regulations in food safety significantly impact the global market in various way, especially the in countries like India, the developing countries like India. It influences the trade, production, supply chain, and consumer trust. So there are key points which has been listed down here, and the one is that the trade barriers and market access. Although the establishments, the processors, those who are approved by the national competent authorities or the regulatory authorities, when it comes to the export, you cannot get into the market directly for the high risk products like fish, milk, poultry products. There is a we still we face the challenges to get into the market access of the those countries, importing countries. And when we talk about the restrictions, we may not stick into USA and EU. There are GCC countries, small countries in the Middle East. Also, they equally they tune their regulations, and most of them are copied from EU. So, when we talk about the import and export restriction challenges, there are different food safety standards can leads to the import bans or restrictions or the limiting the market access for the exporter. Like for instance, if a country or the food safety standards are stringent than those the exporting country, the products may get the entry denied. And one country's regulation, it may be the different from the another country. It may be a neighborhood country, but it will be a different. And another factor, another key point, it's a tariff and non-tariff barriers. uh, Tariff, it's a tax and other importing duties, it comes into the picture. The non-tariff barriers, it is in the form of the regulations and legislations and the conditions, all it's getting imposed by the importing countries. And another key point is the compliance to the cost to the manufacturers. So when these manufacturers they want to compliance to these standards, they should in first they should understand the requirements, and there should be some investments, because the significant investments towards the testing, certification and processing adjustments or it's really cost them. And in case of operations, yes, there is a sourcing ingredients. There are ingredients which may not be available in India, but we have to comply with the requirements of the importing country. So our manufacturers are getting tuned to get the specific ingredient which is listed by the importing country. And then the next key point is the supply chain. See, in India, traceability requirements, yes, it is established from farm to fork for the high risk products, and other products, it is established, it is trying to cover the food chain. But the suppliers, the agents, the mediators, India, like a large country, it is a big challenge. We have to address them. Those will come into the picture to, in the some suppliers, they get into the only to the investment part and they disappear. The another supplier, another kind of supplier, he may carry your goods and he supply and he get disappear. So the getting those people into the this management, it is a really challenging job. Why it is required? Yes, to make a blockchain of the traceability, the supplier management, which the India needs to tune into. And then the key factor is, yes, we all knows that there are regulations and quality standards and everything. Every country is having the specific requirements. But in case of the harmonization come into the picture, where it is happening, yes, it is happening at the codex level, but the following the codex it's always it is a question mark for the many products, and for many products codex also yet to tune the standards. So these kind of inconsistent in the regulations and harmonization, it may result in the product recalls in the food items, because it meets the standards of the one country, it may not meet the standards of the other country. So if you look into the manufacturer point of view, for a batch you are producing to China, it may not be fit for to export to the Europe. And if you are producing to Europe, you may not be fit for export to the USA. So for example, we all are into this ETO issue, ethylene oxide issue. If you take that standard, the codex, it is not at fixed the any limit, but EU has fixed the limit, the range from 0.02 to 0.1 ppm. But in case of USA, it is 7, so 7 ppm. So there is a variation. So it is a really the challenging for the exporters. Again, the complaints cost, and with respect to the food safety assurances, it leads to the toss on the brand reputations. And then the economic impact is obviously the manufacturers or the exporters that effectively navigate and comply with the multiple regulation can gain a competitive advantage. So for which he has to tune is the team with the necessary knowledge and awareness, through which he can get into the brand reputation as well as the strong market. So considering these impacts, the Export Inspection Council, which is established based on the Act, the Export Act 1963, for the sound development of the export of notified commodities, the EIC address these challenges through tuning our regulations and the certification part and testing, and we are trying to comply with the importing country requirements. In most of the standards, if you look into, the importing country standards are stringent with respect to the food products. So always the EIC faces the challenges of multiple food regulations in the global market. It has been addressed through the various initiatives and practices. So I have listed down few the key points for the discussions and briefing. So in case of international collaboration, EIC also the one of the body in the Codex Codex Civics Committee, and then we take up the issue with the Ministry of Commerce to get into the bilateral and multilateral negotiation with the importing countries. Here the main vision it used to be to get it recognize each other's food safety system and reduce the trade barriers. Example like the both the countries, India and other importing country, we try to get into the MRAs, the mutual recognition agreements or the free trade agreements. And then the EIC works with the other stakeholders to advocate the policies that align with the international standard, make it easier for the Indian exporter to comply with the requirements. And then the certification and the compliance support. The inspection and the certification service to the exporter, it's verify their products meet the international standards and the regulatory requirements. So through the testing and then the implementing the food safety management system throughout the chain, and the strengthening the traceability system in the food chain. And in case of accreditation and approval, the establishments which the manufacture the notified commodities like fish or milk or poultry or honey or basmati rice, those establishments are being audited based on the stringent standard of the importing country. If they are willing to export to 30 plus countries, so our audit assessment, it is getting tuned to the stringent requirement of that 30 countries. So that is what I'm trying to say. So, and then AIC recognized the laboratory, testing laboratories and inspection agencies and certifying bodies with the international standard to ensure the reliable and consistent testing and certification processes. Then there are training programs or imported to the exporter to get everybody in a one platform to understand the importing country requirements. And these requirements are dynamic in nature. And when the regulations are getting updated, the technical person in the each manufacturing factory and his team has to tune, and they should aware, then they should tune the system into those requirements. So the capacity building, it plays a vital role. There are on-site trainings we conduct to achieve to make them into the same platform. And in case of technological solutions and digital tools, there are traceability system. We have made it in the e-module, wherein which the exporter can log in and he can submit his applications for the approval. Even after approval, his official control audits, inspections, all are getting done through this e-module. So this module, it's trying to cover the whole food chain. As the processor is the primary responsibility to maintain the traceability system, so they declare the informations over there with respect to the compliance, with respect to the requirements that is being verified by the EIC and field organization, EIC's field organizations, that is export inspection agencies. And then the market research, yes, conducting the market research to understand the regulatory requirements of different countries and providing these informations to the exporter from time to time by the EIC to get them updated. And this helps the exporter prepare and comply with the specific market requirements. And then the trade facilitations, we work with the trade bodies and government agencies to facilitate the smooth market access for the Indian food products by addressing the regulatory barriers and streamlining the export process. So once the exporter exports, and if there is any amendments or updation in the requirements of the importing country, it is being passed on to the exporter. And if there is any feedback over there, it is periodically collected during the capacity building programs when we conduct, especially for the importing country requirements. And apart from that, there are special cases wherein which AIC has to be followed, that has been done. So these are the strategies in place to address those multiple challenges and multiple requirements of the importing country. So I have 3 more slides to make you understand with the case study how we have strategically settled some of the issues. So this is one issue in the basmati rice, isopropyl in the basmati rice. In 2010, you applied the default limit 0.01 ppm on the basmati rice, and there was a drastically drop in the export. There was a loss for the exporters, and there were container got detained at the export. Although we have done the the pre-export test, everything is being done, but there are a few consignments got stuck over there. And based on the then the issue has been taken up to the international platforms through STC, specific trade concerns in the WTO. Then there was a bilaterally also India was taken up the issue with the EU. After these all attempts, after 2 years, European Food Safety Authority, they have evaluated the data based on the scientific evidences, and then the MRL got tuned into the 6 ppm. So the tolerance limit got tuned. Then the export got increased, and still the exports are going on smoothly. So this is one experience which the EIC come across in our the product which is under our purview. And then the next is the fish product, the shrimp. There is an antioxidants, ethacquine. It used in the fish feed, the aquaculture shrimp feed, as a preservative and the antioxidants. These antioxidants, it gets an impact into the tissue of the shrimps. And one fine day, Japan came with the MRL of 0.01 ppm, and export got declined. Then the EIC take up this issue through the codex, and then WTO through STCs and all international platforms, and simultaneously with the bilaterally with the Japan. And there were a large number of sampling has been done in various part of India, sampling of fish feed and shrimp feed. We have done the sampling, and we have done a study by our EIC laboratory. There are 8 laboratories, their own laboratories. We have done the studies. So based on the data, we submitted to the international platform in Japan, and then they revised the MRL into 0.2 ppm from January 2014. So meanwhile, whatever the export got dropped, it cannot be reversed into. So that is also the fact, and the sufferer were the exporters. But now there is a drastic increase in the export. Almost it is 52% increase in the export to the Japan since from 2014. And then the one more case, again the rice. Here the Dracozole was fixed with the MRL of 0.01 ppm, and USA have a different tolerance limit, and Japan has a different tolerance limit, through which overall the India loses 200 million US dollars, but it has been taken up with the various platform. Now EU is considering to raise it to 0.09 ppm based on the available data. So these are the three experience which has been given to for the better understanding of the participants. And then let us look into the way forward. Yes, the efforts to align the international food safety standards are crucial for facilitating the trade, ensuring the consumer protection, and harmonizing the regulations across the borders. But in case of the harmonization, yes, there is a platform over there, Codex, that has to that has to be respected by all the importing countries, which may harmonize the system properly. Deferral to the Codex MRLs when national MRLs are don't exceed could be considered as a default practice by the all the countries. That also it enhance and facilitate the export and the import also. And there should be a common approach to the import tolerance, particularly the level of acceptance of valuation of valuation performed by the authorities using the accepted risk assessment procedures. So EIC is aligning the requirements according to the importing country requirements, and as a certifying body, no conflict of interest. We are ensuring the compliance with the importing country requirements, even though there is a huge variation with the regulations. We are make sure that all our consignments are compliance with the requirements of the respective countries. That's all from my side, and thank you very much. I thank Anil Jari sir and CCC for giving great opportunity on delivering this session. Thank you very much. Over to Madam.
Thank you, Mr. Palani. Quite informative session, specifically while India faces these challenges with the global regulations. Thank you very much for that. When we move on from the challenges that we face from global regulations, the next topic then kind of just slips into the same thing, where domestic consumers, how are they assured that our products are safe, especially in line with the current trends of where we've seen a lot of bad press happening for Indian food products being banned abroad for safety reasons. Now, to talk on that, we have Dr. S.C. Khurana. And Dr. Khurana is an expert in this field. He's a food safety expert with with the Directorate of Marketing and Inspection. with 40 years experience in framing standard certifications. Out of his 40 years, I think he's worked 36 years with the AG Mark and 7 years with FSSAI. Has represented the country on many as a member in various sessions of Codex committees, especially relating to food hygiene, fruits, vegetables, spice, culinary, and other things. And he's also a very distinguished member on several committees of the FSSAI and BIS. So I'll hand over to Dr. Khurana to speak on how do we get the assurances to the domestic suppliers, and as a result of that, even the domestic consumers. Over to you, Dr. Khurana. Dr. Khurana, you're on mute.
Yeah, good evening all. I think now I am audible.
Would you like me to present on your behalf, Dr. Khurana?
Yeah, that would be good. I think it's not coming properly.
I will just share my screen.
Yeah. Yeah, now it is coming. And I think I am audible also.
Yes,
Yes,
you're
yes.
audible. Yes.
Yes, sir.
So good evening to you all once again, and thanks for the opportunity given to me for making this presentation. My presentation is basically on, as Mr. Murtaza said, on how a consumer gets assurance that he is getting the safe food. And basically based on that, and I have included the recent incidents of presence of ethylene oxide in spices. But before moving to that incidents and a few slides on that, I have few slides on the various aspects of or various provisions of Food Safety and Standards Act relating to food safety and for which a consumer can feel assured. Next slide, please. So as everyone may be knowing here, that FSSAI has the mandate of laying down science-based standards, and they are the regulators for sale and import of food to ensure availability of safe and wholesome food for human consumption. And provisions of this act are applicable for domestic market, including imports. And the enforcement of the provisions of the act is with the FSSAI and food safety commissioners of various states or union territories who implement the provisions of the act. Next slide, please. Now, I have listed here few of the regulations which are related to the topic of today, but these are not all the regulations. Maybe many more regulations are relevant, but because I was told I will be given 20 minutes, I have not included those regulations. Maybe packaging regulation or labeling and advertising and claims regulations are also related to food safety. But here I have included the main regulations which are related. So first which I have mentioned here is the Food Safety and Standards Licensing and Registration of Food Businesses Regulations, and in which Schedule 4 is the most important, which says that which goes for the general and hygienic and sanitary practices to be followed by food business operators. And there are 5 parts in this. First part is basic part 1, which is for the people who are going food business operators who are going for registration. And part 2 is for the general manufacturing. And part 3 for the milk and meat products, part 4 for the meat and meat products, and 5 for the catering and all those things. So there are different requirements of good hygienic and sanitary practices. But if you go to the preamble of the Schedule 4 before the part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 starts, it gives that you have to go towards achieving the India HACCP, and they are referring to India HACCP, not HACCP. So I may tell you here that India HACCP is a scheme which is implemented by the Quality Council of India. So they encourage the food business operators to move towards India HACCP. Then there is another provision in the regulation, this regulation, which I am referring to, that the food business operators, all of them should ensure testing of relevant chemical and or microbiological contaminants in food products as frequently as required on the basis of historical data and risk assessment to ensure production and delivery of safe food through own or NABL accredited FSSAI notified labs at least once in 6 months. So every food business operator has to get its product tested at least once in 6 months for all the food safety parameters. So that report they have to produce to the FSSAI. It's an online procedure and they have to submit to FSSAI. Then another regulation which is relevant is the food safety and standards, food product standards and food additives regulation. Here basically the quality parameters are there in this regulation. But when we go to the Appendix C, it gives the list of permitted food additives, the different classes of foods, permitted food additives for each class. All those lists are there as food additives can also become a food safety issue. That's why I am referring it here. Then there is a Appendix B, which gives microbiological requirements of different classes of food, different categories of food. The limits of various microbiological parameters are given. And then there is Appendix C, which goes on to give the permitted processing aids and what can be the maximum residues of those processing aids. So this regulation takes care of the quality standards and 2 or 3 of the food safety issues, food safety aspects, which can be the additives or the microbiological parameters or the processing aids. Then there is food safety and standards, contaminants, toxins and residues regulation, 2011. It goes for the prescribing the limits for the residues of the pesticides and the heavy metals, which they name it metallic contaminants, and the aflatoxins and the naturally occurring toxins, melamine, etc. The limits of all these parameters are given in this regulation. So industry has to comply with those standards which are given in this regulation. Then the third one is the Food Safety and Standard Food Safety Auditing Regulation 2018. And I have a slide on this regulation subsequently. So this is the food safety auditing, which in the session 1 also one of the speakers was referring to. So it has been made mandatory for certain commodities. So it addresses many issues. So when I come to that slide, I'll discuss it. Next slide, please. Now there is another scheme which is implemented by FSSAI, which is called a hygiene rating scheme. And it is an initiative of QCI and FSSAI. The accreditation of this hygiene rating scheme is given by the QCI only, but the reports and all is submitted to the FSSAI. And it is an online transparent scoring and rating process which certifies food businesses on the basis of their food safety compliance and allow consumers to make informed choices. And the scheme aims to encourage food businesses to improve their hygiene and safety standards. And it also allows consumers to make informed choices pertaining to food outlets they eat or procure food. It is applicable to food service establishments, sweet shops, bakery, meat, retail stores, etc. Means it is applicable to the establishment where consumer has an interface with the food business operators. It is a voluntary scheme, but few of the restaurants and food service establishments, especially sweet shops, prefer to have this hygiene rating and display. They can display the certificate. The display is of the star rating, 5-star or 4-star, like that. There is a star rating for that. And some of the industry, some of the establishments display this. Next slide, please. Then the food safety auditing I was referring to in my first slide. It is implemented as per the provisions of Food Safety and Standards, Food Safety Auditing Regulations 2018. As per this regulation, FSSAI accredits the food safety auditing agencies they have as on date, they have accredited more than 30 food safety auditing agencies with the defined scope, and they do the audits and submit the report to FSSAI. And this FSSAI has also issued one order. Previously, they had issued one chart wherein they had mentioned the frequency of all the food business operators for after what time every food business operators should get the food safety auditing done. But there were some issues in implementing it because there were very few food safety auditing agencies which were accredited at that time. So the concept came to that it will only be mandatory in the beginning for the high risk food commodities categories, and they have categorized it for certain commodities or categories, which are dairy products and analogs, meat and meat products, including poultry, fish and fish products, egg and egg products, prepared foods, sweets, etc. So as on date, it is mandatory for these categories of food business operators to get their premises audited by the accredited food safety auditing agencies. Such audits encourage the efficient self-compliance by the food businesses. It is conducted once annually, and food businesses having satisfactory audits may be subjected to less frequent inspection by central or state licensing authorities. Hence, third-party audits reduce the burden on regulatory inspection conducted by central or state licensing authorities. Here I may tell you that generally what happens is when the third party, in some of the states, not in all the states, when the food safety auditing agencies go for doing the audits, the food safety officer of that area accompanies them. It serves two purposes, that it happens to be an audit by the state food safety commissioner also, and it is a learning for the food safety commissioner also of the new concepts. And in the last session, one of the speaker was also mentioning about that the food business operator was not aware of the FSSAI regulations of the FAST Act and food safety supervisor or all that. So it is a good opportunity for the food safety auditing agencies to raise these non-compliances so that they are complied with in the next, before the next audit takes place. Next slide, please. Then there is a system of food surveillance. So food surveillance is a systematic collection, collation, analysis and interpretation of accurate information about defined food with respect to food safety or food standards, closely integrated with timely dissemination of that information to those responsible for control and prevention measures. So different types of surveillance activities are taken, which can be pan-India, which can be state-specific, which can be during festivals, or it can be a commodity-specific, or it can be a issue-specific. And the objective is to detect, control, and prevent foodborne disease outbreaks, thereby ensuring the food safety. The data information generated through surveillance activities is used for carrying out enforcement drives. All the surveillance reports are shared with the state food safety commissioners, and it's also on the FSSAI website. So food safety commissioners do the enforcement activities based on these surveillance reports also. And they also help in identifying hotspots for adulterated and unsafe food. And till date, the pan-India surveillance projects have been carried out for milk, edible oils, trans fats and acrylamide content, jaggery, and fruits and vegetables. Recently, FSSAI has invited expression of interest, and it is under process. Next slide, please. Now, all these slides, previous slide was give an idea to the participants here that FSSAI has a system to assure the consumers that certain provisions are there in the Food Safety and Standards Act 2006, and they are being implemented. Now we come to the issue of ethylene oxide, which is a recent issue, and which came up about 1.5 months back, maybe a little less than that. And talking of ethylene oxide, it is colorless gas and at room temperature, below 10 degrees centigrade. It is highly unstable and rapidly gets converted in the environment to 2-chloroethanol. It is surface disinfectant and is widely used in hospitals and the medical equipment industry to replace steam in the stabilization of heat-sensitive medical equipment such as disposable plastic syringes. It is capable of killing bacteria, viruses, and fungi. As such, it is often used in cold sterilization to reduce microbial contamination of heat-sensitive food products such as spices and herbs. Post-treatment, ETO residues in food fully dissipate with time and the residue left is 2-chloroethanol. Next slide, please. Now, what is the position of ethylene oxide with regard to India? It is not registered as an insecticide by CIB and RC, which is in the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare, as per provisions in the Insecticides Act 1968. It is also not listed as a processing aid for any food in Appendix C of the Food Safety and Standards, Food Products and Food Additives Regulations 2011. It is also not mentioned as a pesticide for any food in FSS Food Safety and Standards, Contaminants, Toxins and Residues Regulations 11. As such, so whenever any MRL is not listed for any particular food, maybe it is registered, but it is not for that food, and it is found in some other foods, and the default limit of 0.01 applies. So that is, as such, the default limit of 0.01 mg per kg is applicable. However, an office order was issued by FSSAI on 8th April 2024, mentioning the following. In case the pesticide is not registered with CIB and RC, then MRL of 0.1 mg per kg will be applicable for spices and culinary herbs. So the previous limit, which was in the regulation, was 0.01, and why this office order, it has been changed to 0.1 mg per kg. And it is reported in the media that FSSAI has carried out audits and sampling of spices of concerned FBOs and others. They have drawn samples, they have visited the premises of the concerned food business operators and many more also. And they have drawn the samples, they have sent to the laboratory. And the outcome of the exercise has not been made public yet. Next slide, please. Now, what is the position of ethylene oxide globally? Codex Alimentarius has not prescribed any MRL for ETO and 2-CEE residues. I may mention here that the residue analysis of 2-CE residues is more important than for the ETO, because ETO very quickly, very shortly dissipates into the 2-CE residues. Then United States and Canada have set MRLs of ETO and 2-CE at 7 mg per kg and 960 mg per kg respectively. EU and UK have established the MRL of 0.1 mg per kg, which they say it is sum of ETO and 2-CE expressed as ETO. Then Singapore has MRL of 50 mg per kg of ETO, and Hong Kong has zero tolerance. So when we see this slide, when you see this slide, you will observe that the fumigant is the same, human is the same, but the limits are different by various countries, and they are not varying by a small amount. They are varying by a large. There is a large variation if you compare that of the EU and UK and that of the US and Canada. There is a large variation. So there is a wide variation in limits fixed by various countries. So I do not know how the risk assessment is done by different agencies, but there is a large wide variation. Next slide, please. So what is the way ahead for this? FSSAI has no mandate over exports. Various agencies such as EIC, Spices Board, Tea Board, APIDA, etc. This I am way ahead. I am talking with regard in general, not specifically with regard to ETO or 2C. So tea board, APETA, etc. to identify various country-specific concerns and sensitize the exporters. FSSAI should also get sensitized by the issues highlighted by the importing countries for taking proactive measures for domestic market. Now, this is very important. FSSAI has to take a clear stand on the use of ban on ETO. Any issue and issue necessary guidelines. So FSSAI has not yet done anything like on this issue. So they have to issue an office order or some guideline making the position clear on this issue. Then FSSAI to look for other concerns of food safety. Not only this has been highlighted by Hong Kong and Singapore. Maybe I do not know it is actually a food safety concern. It is an actual concern because till date they have not given the reports. As the two concerned FBOs tell, they have not till given them the analytical reports. So FSSAI should look to other concerns of food safety also in addition to this, which is one of them burning is the 3 MCPD and GE in processed food and vegetable oils, mainly palm oil, and fix appropriate limits. And industry should provide the inputs. This is very important. So whenever FSSAI needs some fix some limit for something, they need data, and data has to come from the industry because the government cannot have exercise can do exercise for creating the analytical data, and it's very difficult for doing it for many issues. So industry should provide the inputs to the FSSAI on whatever the food safety concern is, so that appropriate food safety limits may be fixed. So that is what I wanted to say on this issue, and thank you very much. Next slide.
So I am. Okay, thank you, Dr. Khurana. I am looking at some. No, not much questions. Anybody have questions up till now, or should we move on to the next speaker then?
Take a picture, a group picture, Mr. Murtaza. Request the speakers to turn on the videos, please. Mr. Palnik, yes. Hati, can you take the pic, please? Thank you.
All right. Our next speaker is Dr. Gauri Satpathy, and she will be speaking to us on the trends in lab testings. She'll also be talking about some of the challenges we face while testing for contaminants. Now, Dr. Gauri is a pretty experienced person in the field of testings and science and analytical chemistry. She has okay, so somebody's on. Good. Okay. She has a vast experience in validation of processes with high-end analytical equipment, basically meeting the regulatory requirements of US FDA, WHO, and also to the ISO standards. She's worked with several organizations in a capacity of technical, managerial, and also as leadership roles. Currently, she is the executive director at Eureka Analytical Services. And over to you, Dr. Gauri. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. I think, sir, you have to help me with the sharing the slide.
I will do that. I have your slide deck. So let me go through all the hunt. Oh, here we are. Okay. Here we go.
Yeah. Sorry. So good evening, everyone. I think I'm the most unprepared speaker in the whole group, and I'm the last one. So which is the good. So whatever I will say, probably whether it is good or bad, but this is the last one. Am I correct, Murtuza sir? I think I'm the last one.
This is for this session, yes. Then there's
Yes.
another technical session.
Okay. So basically, the topic is more to do with the trend in the contaminants and residue. And the previous two speakers, like Palaneji and Khurana sir, have taken us through for different country regulation, and as well as the kind of requirement as far as the exporting country is concerned. In our case, it is India, and as well as the importing country issue. So today I will take you through the current challenges that we are getting the rapid alert from different country, and we as a testing lab, what is our kind of a the how much responsibility we carry, because food processor produce the product, and then the testing lab does the analysis of the product, and the certification body or the export inspection authority or the other bodies, they, based on our testing certificate, they export the product. So basically the testing lab plays a bigger role, and the kind of the big responsibility as well. So next slide, sir. Yeah, so we just give you a gist of us. We are a food testing lab, which is a part of a global group which is called GBA Group, and we are third largest lab in globally. Majorly, we are present in Europe and partly in other part of the country. We are also a part of different international forum as far as the lab is concerned. Next slide, sir. Yeah. So as far as the testing is concerned, it's for lab or the food processing industry. There are a lot of testing. It's like a bucket of testing. So once we want to launch a product, we have to do the nutritional analysis. We have to do the analysis as per the, if it is an Indian product, then we have to do label claim analysis. We have to do the self-claim analysis. We have to do the residue and contaminants analysis. And then we have to, if we wanted to export, then we have to also do the allergen kind of analysis. So then it's, and for it's a huge bucket of analysis, and every country it is changing. So it's not that it's only one country. If we will test a product for one country, then it is going to meet the requirement of all the countries. So it's a different country requirement and different list of parameters we are testing. The limit of the active or the contaminants or the residue is different. So it's a I can, as a lab per se, I can say it is good that for the lab side of it, we are getting a lot of work for doing the testing. But as far as the manufacturer is concerned, or the trader or the exporter is concerned, I can say that it's a huge overload of testing for them, and as well as the cost for them to ensure that my product is fit for India, my product is fit for exporting to Europe or US or any country comes under the codex. So next slide, sir. So now I will just say that what is, like, though with everything, when we have gone through the Khurana sir presentation, we understood that there are a lot of talks happening right now in market, and one is as a residue and another one is in contaminants part. So residue is something where we know that we have applied the product into the sourcing or like in the agriculture practices, and then because of which there is some residue retained in the product, and when we are analyzing the product, we are finding some residue. And contaminants is something where it is a byproduct. It is not naturally added into the product while doing the harvesting, but it is being you can say either it is self-produced or during the sort of fumigation or not following a best practices, then those kind of byproducts are coming out, or man-made contamination is also being made, and which comes under the list of the contaminants. To do all these residue contaminants analysis, every lab has to have whether it is an in-house lab or an outside lab, the lab has to have very high-end instrument. It starts with like LCMS, MS, GCMS, MS, then you have ICP-MS, ICP-MS, and it's a big investment. So that's why the producer, if they wanted to control their own input material as well as the in-process quality control, then also it is very difficult and it's very expensive. but this is what the requirement is. So we have to have the high-end instruments. Next slide, sir. Yeah. So, and then the list is again not in one side of it. So we cannot say the products are getting only rejected because of the residue or contaminants. It is being rejected for many of the product. If I have pulled out some data from 2013 and some data from 2014, and we found that the products are getting failed in microbiology, that is failed in residue, it is failed in ethylene oxide, then it is also failed in the preservative analysis, heavy metal analysis. Then you have the next slide, sir. Then you have the additives like sulfite and other kind of the contaminants. So, and then it's like, and even if nowadays it's coming like a capsaicin is coming, which is more than the natural source. So it cannot come. If I'm using a chili powder, chili has a specific range of capsaicin, it cannot go more than that. But those kind of rapid alerts had also started coming. So which we can say that we as a food producer have to be very careful, and as well as we as a testing lab has to be very careful while testing a product and certifying the product that the product is meeting the requirement of the importing country. Next slide, sir. So again, sir has already taken off the issues of the recent the ETO thing. I will not talk much, but then it is not only ETO. So ETO started in 2020, then it got stopped from sesame seed, then it went to the organic product, then it again came to now spices, then Europe got settled down, but then again the Singapore and Philippines issue started. But not only the ETO, before that there was a nicotine issue, there was an anthraquinone issue, there was pentachlorophenol issue in the guar gum. So the trade is continuously facing the issues for different residue and contaminants, and every lab has the responsibility to do the testing of those products in a very low LOQ level, so that the trade will get not impacted, and as well as the food processor will take in the decision which is at the beginning, and instead of it gets failed in the importing country, they can control those kind of failure. Next slide, sir. So when we talk about the contaminants residue, I have already mentioned, but now the residue and the contaminants list has gone more than the pesticides, heavy metals or mycotoxins. So if you talk about other country, they will talk adulteration, food fraud. Then you have the authenticity of the products. They even started saying, okay, you have a arrowroot powder, I need a HPTLC, I need a DNA authenticity. So to ensure that, and even if in case of turmeric powder, they have not only the residue contaminants and the microbiology, they have again started asking for the authenticity, and the authenticity will never go with a small qualitative test. Their expectation is either do by DNA authenticity or the HPTLC analysis, and sometimes buyer are asking that you have to do it from Germany or from Europe. So it is all additional cost. But and again, now if you talk about the water standard, earlier the water was again having a limited standard. Now they have added the PFAS as a requirement to the water. Then also it has gone to the food as well for the PFAS analysis and the cooking utensils. It's a toxics which is coming from the cooking utensils or from the contaminants. And then microplastics is another thing which is came up. Then even if there are some alkaloid also got listed for tea, for the spices, which is called as a pyrogelodin alkaloid or the tropin alkaloid, that again now become an issue, and there are some failures coming have been seen in the recent parts. If you talk about the US, the salmonella is always there was an issue, but now repetitively we are seeing some concern with regards to filth is concern. Again, the filth is in one way the expectation of the trade is you cannot use pesticide. In other way, the expectation is there shouldn't be any filth in the product. So there are challenges everywhere in terms of sourcing the material to producing the material and to the to selling the material. And some of the mislabeling products are also available in India. Like example, either I might be buying a product by thinking that it's a biopesticide, but when you are testing the product, then we are seeing that there are some pesticides in the product. So those are again the biggest challenge for the producer and as well as for the lab is concerned. Next slide, sir. So I will not take much time on the regulation part. As we all know, in India, FSSAI regulates the overall as in the product launch in India and then the product sale in India. In different country, it is a different regulation. Again, if you are talking about organic product, then in India, again, you have EPIDA is regulating the organic product. So it's FSSAI is regulating. In case of Europe, there is a different standard. In case of US, it is a US NOP, and in case of other countries, there is a different standards as per their country requirement is concerned. Next slide, sir. Okay, so many a time the exporter or the food producer has a challenge, have faced a challenges. They always come back to us saying that we don't know when we test a product in India versus abroad. Most of the time we find the differences in the result. Even if India to India there is a variation, even if in the Germany to Germany there is a variation. So and then India, Germany, India, US, everywhere there will be a variation. So I can only say that as far as the food is concerned, it is not always a single commodity. It is not always sold as a powder form. It is not always in the liquid form. It is a mix of it is a grain, it's a spice, or it's a fish, or it's a meat. It is super homogeneous in the nature. So sample homogeneity plays a bigger role. And I think the EIC and the EPIDA also gives training to the lab staff on sampling part. And they say that sampling is most important than the analysis at the lab level, because lab takes only 2 to 10 gram of samples almost for the testing. But in the sampling level, the lot size will start from 1 metric ton to 20 metric ton kind of a size. So the lab side, the sample homogeneity is one of the major concern. Then the matrix effect, because we as lab, we run multiple matrices. Food doesn't behave as a one matrix, because there are matrix with high sugar, high fat, then high carbohydrate. So the high pigment also, some of the product comes as this one. So matrix effect also plays a bigger role. So when we do the sample preparation, we have to be very careful that what kind of cleanup procedure we are using and how we are really handling the different matrices. Then again, every product goes through, first there is a manual processing, then it goes to a machine, and then there are operator who does the interpretation of the results. So if the people are not well trained, then interpretation also doesn't go well. Then there are many a time the use of inappropriate equipment. So we have seen that, like example, the ETO has to be done by GCMS MS, or the pesticide has to be done by LCMS MS. But people might be there doing the single code, or might be there using the triple code with a little old model and all. Then that time the sensitivity is again another issue, that my machine may not be able to achieve the kind of LOQ that I am looking for. So as now, if you talk about protein, as in this one, the Geldal is a basic concept we use, but there are manual Geldal, there is a automated one. So these are also the differences which comes from lab to lab. And cross contamination, again, like example, if I'm running the multiple matrices in one batch, or the multiple matrices in one machine, so sometimes we have seen that those kind of the cross contamination is also coming. As far as if I have to talk about the ETO as a subject, then again, this is supply chain, the gloves, the packaging material, everything also contributed initially for the ETO. Then even if in the testing, every test now in the high-end instrument, they are talking about use of internal standards. Some labs use the internal standards. Some people are not using the internal standard, because those are all deuterated standard and very expensive. So lab also try to reduce the cost by not using those things, and which is also leading the error in the results. And then every lab has a responsibility, and the regulator and the accreditation body force us to participate in the proficiency QC testing, which is either national or international, and it should be like 17043 accredited, so that to ensure our the reliability, the quality, and the ruggedness and of our test results. And as I mentioned, sometimes untrained manpower also can lead to the wrong results. Next slide, sir. So I think overall, we as a lab and the quality assurance is concerned, then I think we play a role, and we can play a role in every steps, like starting at the sourcing of the material. So if this at the sourcing level, if any of the food processing unit can ensure the quality of the raw material, and then it goes to the processing, then it goes to the processing, and in processing stage, if they will ensure there is no cross contamination, then again at the stage of the export, if they will get the product tested with the required limit of detection or the quantification, then I think we can help ourselves in such kind of rejection or the recall of the products. So it's altogether, I can say, the quality, ensuring the quality is a juggling of three balls, and then we have to manage it, because it's also the high quality will definitely comes with a high cost. So I can also say that it doesn't come without in a lesser cost. Next slide, sir. So I can say that we as a testing lab, we can help from farm to fork, and we always do some value addition at every steps. So thank you so much, sir. Thanks to Anil Johri, sir. Thanks to CCC for giving me the chance to speak. And as I said, I was super unprepared, and excuse me if I have not made a good presentation. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Gauri, for really good insights into labs and testing. Personally, me not being in the field, I think I get a little bit more assurance that we do have the checks in place. It's only that we need to follow those properly.
Even if, sir, I just heard that you are a part of a cyber security, I can say that we as a testing lab, we have to also maintain a lot of like a cyber security, or I can say the compliances as far as the computer system is concerned, because many a time data editing also happen, data deleting also happen, renaming also happen. So we are also following now like 21 CFR compliances kind of thing, where these cyber security sort of things are also coming into place. And I think after some time, when especially in the pharma side, they are very much particular about this, and slowly those things are going to come in the food testing as well.
I assume so. Yes, it will. They would be coming there. Yes. So any further questions where anybody has got from the participant side?
There's one in the Q&A box, the last one. Radiation, just please check.
Radiation analysis.
Yeah,
yes.
please. Yeah.
So Dr. Gauri, are you doing? Does your lab do any radiation analysis, or
Yes,
maybe
sir.
Dr. Khurana?
Yeah. Khurana sir is replying, sir. Then you sir can take up, or should I?
Either way. No problem. You reply back. You reply, Dr. Gauri.
Yeah, sir, as far as the radiation is concerned, they in the food product, it goes as a two technique. One is PSL and the TL. PSL is the qualitative analysis, and TL is another technique, which is Illumina based kind of a technique. And we don't do it in India, but we get it done from our Germany facility. If it is a the food radiation is concerned, if they're asking about the food radiation, but we do it, sir.
Yeah. So yeah, just I would assume, yes, it's radiation analysis for food.
Yeah. So we do it. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Any other questions from our participants? Okay. Thank you again, Dr. Gauri. And this basically ends our technical session number 2. And I'll now pass it on over to my colleague Sridhar to take over for session number 3. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a nice day.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. Thanks. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murtaza. Thank you so much, and thanks to all the wonderful presentations until now. Because I mean, this is a great opportunity to actually get updates on what's happening, what's working, and more importantly, what's not working in the industry. Because there's so much that is not working. We all know that. So I think it's a great platform that that CCC has created for us, and we're really thankful for that. I'm probably the only host who has a few slides. So just give me a moment until I fire that up, please. Are you able to see something on the screen?
Yeah, we're seeing your presentation.
Wonderful. Great. So this topic, in fact, I opted, I requested Ramaji that I would like to host this particular session, which is about understanding what is actually happening under the garb of influencing or under the garb of advertisements, because I'm fresh out of a very interesting discussion that took place at a client's office last week, wherein we were the client and us, wherein we are doing a market access service project for them. We had to face around 4 different quote unquote influencers who were trying to come and pitch and sell their services. And what was so obvious and apparent that these are guys who just managed to get thousands and thousands of people to follow them on some social media, and that they assume that gives them the power and the wherewithal to present anything and everything they can. So obviously there is a lot that is happening, which is not good for the industry, for the consumers, and even for the manufacturers and the businesses themselves. So what I basically did is, for today's presentation, I just did a quick Google search and try to understand who was the first influencer that the universe had. And it turns out that Lord Narada was the first influencer who went across the universe and sharing information and so on and so forth. The interesting thing is he did it with a lot of moral values. He was very eloquent in the way he presented it. He was competent. He basically knew what is superior and what is inferior. And of course, the whole premise of his being an influencer was based on righteous conduct and divine presence. Unfortunately, that does not seem to be the case today, because today's influencers, well, giving them the benefit of doubt, knowingly or unknowingly, they end up endorsing misleading advertisements, promoting harmful products and services, and basically spreading misinformation, creating unrealistic expectations, and again, directly or indirectly becoming party to frauds and scams. And unfortunately, many of them are just doing all this just for money, without even tapping into their own conscious to understand whether they are actually doing the right thing or not. And
1 second. Sorry for interruption. Can we go to the full screen mode, please? Sorry.
Oh, sure, I shall. Better now?
No, it is still on a slideshow mode. Full screen is not happening.
Oh.
I think you need to share the other screen where the full screen is going.
Sure. Just give me a moment, please. I'm sorry about
Maybe
that.
your screen 2 or something like that. Yeah.
Just give me a moment, please.
Yeah, sure.
No, this doesn't seem to be firing up.
That's okay, fine. Please continue.
Okay.
Sometimes
So just bear with me on that. I'll probably mail this out to you, to the group. So obviously, what happens is that the most affected people are the consumers today, because they are, on one hand, they have a lot of peer pressure. They want to buy what their neighbors bought, irrespective of whether it is a good thing or not a good thing. And more often than not, they are confused, harassed, and intimidated by these influencers. And this is something which is very, very serious, because as we all know, what is claimed to be organic is not organic. What is claimed to be having wheat content is not wheat content, and so on and so forth. And at every stage, if you look at it, there is no industry that has been spared. There is no product that has been spared by the influencers. They are everywhere, and this is becoming a menace. I actually don't see much positive happening from the influencers sphere with due respects to them, but there is a lot of negativity that's actually being spread in terms of the betterment and the good well-being of the consumers. Needless to say, there is a lot of problems: financial loss, health and well-being, emotional, psychological, manipulation, IP violations, you name it. I mean, I just could just think of a few of them. There are a lot of issues that is actually happening as far as the consumer is concerned. So what we have done is today we have two presentations. The first presentation is by Mr. Liaquat Ali. He's the chairman of the Consumer Coordination Council, and he's teamed up with Mr. Abhishek Srivastava, who is the past chairman of the Consumer Coordination Council of Rajasthan. And we have a presentation from them, followed by a very interesting presentation by Dr. Priyanshu. He's going to be bringing in a different element. Dr. Priyanshu is going to be bringing in the mushroom element. He's going to be sharing with us what is actually happening in the sphere of the mushrooms. And needless to say, Mr. Liaquat Ali and Mr. Abhishek will be sharing their thoughts from the perspective of the Consumer Coordinator Council. So without much ado, I will hand over the microphone to Mr. Liaquat Ali and Mr. Abhishek for them to walk us through the presentation. Mr. Liaquat Ali, you want me to fire up the presentation, or would you want to try doing that?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, sir.
I sent you the PPT.
Okay, I will try and fire it up. Just give me a moment.
Yeah.
You can keep speaking, Mr. Ali.
Hello. Yeah. You hear me? You hear me?
One second. Can you look at the slides?
No.
Okay. Just give me a moment, please.
Yeah.
Is it there now?
Okay.
Is it there now?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah,
Please go ahead, Mr. Liaquat Ali.
Yeah. Please continue. Thank you, Mr. Ramaman and Sridharji, and special thanks to Mr. Gauri. Next slide. Continue. Please. Yeah, the Consumer Coordination Council New Delhi is a non-profit organization established in 1992 to promote and protect the interests of consumers in India. Primary objective is to ensure the protection and promotion rights. Key areas of focus include consumer rights, product safety, care, state practice, and quality assurance. The CCC also advocates online workshops and seminars for the purpose of education and awareness, conduct research on consumer issues, market trends, and assist consumer in resolving disputes. Because this session is misleading advertisement and celebrity endorsement, brand influencer attack, making health. So I say some words in this subject. Please, next slide, Sridharji. Yeah. Consumer Protection Act 2019, it aims to protect the interests of the consumer in India. Everyone knows it is applied on all goods and services, including telecom, housing, and banking, except those specifically provided by the central or the state government. It recognizes the following six rights of consumer: right to safety, right to inform, right to choose, right to hear, right to redressal, and right to consumer education. Next. It is also recognized with a clear grievance redressal mechanism. As you know better. At the district level, district consumer forum, 50 lakh, the jurisdiction of the district forum, and the state level, state commission, the 50 lakh to 2 crore jurisdiction of the pecuniary jurisdiction, and above more than 2 crore national level, national commission, pecuniary jurisdiction. Next. Endorsement by the celebrities. The Consumer Protection Act 2019 especially mentioned the provision related to endorsement by celebrities and impose penalties for misleading advertisement. Firstly, in any advertisement which is misleading, false, or deceptive, second, with any celebrities found endorsing a product or service which is alleged to be misleading, he can be held liable for the following penalties. First offense, fine up to 10 lakh, and for subsequent offense, fine up to 50 lakh. This is the provision in Consumer Protection Act, but it is unfortunate, and the last 15 years continuing district and state consumer commission member, no complaints come in this type of misleading advertisement in any celebrity, against any celebrity. Additionally, the Central Consumer Protection Authority, CCPA, can also provide the endorser from making endorsement of any product service for a period of 1 year for the first contravention and up to 3 years for subsequent contravention. Next. Identification mark like labeling on the product, because today is a World Food Day, it is important to all consumers. Quality certificate for selling items in the market are being openly misused. Recently, our Chief Patent, Sri Anil Johri, identified an urgent cause and informed Consumer Coordination, which is in turn wrote a letter to the Food Department, FSSAI. The consumers are being misled by the use of fake products like mislabeling of food items. Next. You see the some example. He sent me the Mr. Anil Johri, our chief pattern. You see the ISO 9001 and 22,000 label. Can you see, Mr. Shivrat?
You want me to go?
Can you see the on label? Next slide, please. Next slide.
Next slide, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this slide?
Yes.
Okay. I've enlarged it. Can you see the image? Hello?
Just a minute.
Yeah, I've enlarged it. Can you see the image now?
Maybe possible. First slide, please.
Yes.
The last slide? The previous slide?
Yeah. We send with the proof of yeah. You see this Euro India Fresh Food Limited and ISO 20,000 certified company. This is misleading. This is wrong. This is clearly wrong. This type of many examples we see, and Mr. Johri sir sent us. This is the no relevancy in the product quality. It is clearly, this is the management system for the manufacturer. I think you see this. You see the roasted salted peanut in backside Euro India Fresh Food Limited. You see, Mr. Sridharji?
Yeah, I'm just trying to close in on that.
In center. Yes. This is the an ISO 20000 certified company.
Correct.
This is the wrong because the FSSAI and Department of Health not permitted this type of endorsement. Please next. Next. Yes, it is very important. You see, this is the mango photo and American Delight. You see, first line in American Delight, basil seed drink. It is only basil seed drink, and photo is the mango. You see the photo. This is the photo is mango and mango and below mango. You see very small letters end of the flavor. What use the flavor?
Yeah.
And you just bag wrapper. You see, but sugar 70, water 72%, 72.80%, basil seed 15%, sugar 12%. You see, and second photo.
Yeah.
Mango wrapper is back side of the wrapper. Yes, you see.
Yeah.
Water 72.80%, basil seed 15%, sugar 12%, and mango flavor only mango flavor in this product, but they please small करें प्लीज। आप इसको देखें, ये जिस तरीके से समझ पा रहे हैं ना श्रीधर जी आप?
हाँ जी प्लीज गो अहेड।
आप ये देखें, इसको फोटो तो इन्होंने मैंगो का दिया है और इसमें मैंगो है ही नहीं। इसी तरीके से पास वाला जो फोटो है आप देखें, बासिल सीड का फोटो है और लीची इसके ऊपर लिखा हुआ है। लीची के नीचे बिल्कुल जो ग्रे कलर का जो बैकग्राउंड है, उसी ग्रे कलर के अंदर फ्लेवर लिखा हुआ है, लीची का फ्लेवर है।
करेक्ट।
तो कंज्यूमर को मतलब इस तरीके से मिसलीड कर रहे हैं फूड प्रोडक्ट के मामले में, इस तरीके से दिखा रहे हैं फोटोग्राफ के माध्यम से, लेबल के माध्यम से, कि ऐसा लगता है कि ये लीची का शेक है या लीची का जूस है या ये मैंगो का जूस है, जबकि इन दोनों के अंदर ना तो लीची है और ना ही मैंगो है। नेक्स्ट स्लाइड है। इसी तरीके से लीची का ब्लैक उसमें भी है। what needs to be done suggestion, the number of people selling due to adulterate or contaminated food is increased day by day, which needs to be curbed. To avoid adulteration with food and substances, consumer will have to be aware their own rights. And institution like FSSAI will have to come forward to protect the interest of consumer. But we consumer activists in view of the consumer activities, we feel the FSSAI not protect the consumer rights. In कुछ समय पहले आपने देखा होगा कि पहले मिठाई की दुकानों के ऊपर उसकी एक्सपायरी डेट लिखने का नियम था, एफएसएसआई नहीं बनाया था। थोड़े दिन बाद ऐसा लगता है मुझे कि एफएसएसआई को शायद हो सकता है उपभोक्ताओं के स्वास्थ्य के हित की ज्यादा चिंता नहीं होकर व्यापारियों के हित की चिंता ज्यादा लगती है, मुझे ऐसा लगता है। इसीलिए उन्होंने वो ऑर्डर विड्रॉ कर लिया। जब मिठाई की दुकान के ऊपर जब लोग पहले जाते थे तो उसमें लिखा रहता था कि ये एक्सपायरी डेट से इसकी मैन्युफैक्चरिंग की थी, ये है डेट ये है, और इसको आप 3 दिन तक 2 दिन तक आप इसको यूज कर सकते हैं। पर उन्होंने उस ऑर्डर को विड्रॉ कर लिया, जो उपभोक्ताओं के हितों के खिलाफ है। हमारा ये मानना है कि ये इस तरीके की एक्टिविटीज एफएसएसआई को नहीं करनी चाहिए। उल्टा इस तरह की एक्टिविटीज से जो उपभोक्ताओं के हितों की रक्षा की बात नहीं करके उपभोक्ताओं के अहितों की रक्षा की बात हो रही है, ये गलत है। नेक्स्ट स्लाइड प्लीज। इसी तरीके से रोल अभी हम लोगों ने हमने देखा था रोल ऑफ सीसीपीए का, हमने रोल अच्छा देखा था बीच में। जो अभी नीति खरे मैडम है, फूड सेक्रेटरी है, वो कमिश्नर भी थी। डिजिटल पोर्टल फॉर कंज्यूमर कंप्लेंट, उन्होंने अभी द इंडियन गवर्नमेंट हैज रिसेंटली लॉन्च ए डेडिकेटेड पोर्टल फॉर सीसीपीए इन जस्ट जून मंथ टू हेल्प देम विद द प्रोसेस ऑफ फाइलिंग कंज्यूमर कंप्लेंट। कोई भी कंज्यूमर अब सीसीपीए के पास में इस तरह की कंप्लेंट्स को ऑनलाइन भी डाल सकता है। कोलैबोरेशन विद आस्की, द सीसीपीए हैज कोलैबोरेट with the Advertisement Standard Council of India, ASCI to strengthen regulation against misleading advertisement. CCPA ने उनके साथ भी कोलैबोरेशन किया है। इसी तरीके से आपने देखा होगा CCPA ने जनवरी 2024 में CCPA took action against Amazon for selling sweet label ads। आपने देखा होगा श्री राम मंदिर अयोध्या का प्रसाद बेच रहा था अमेजन, जबकि उसका शिलान्यास भी नहीं हुआ था, उससे पहले उसने प्रसाद बेचना शुरू कर दिया था। तो सीसीपीए ने उसको कॉग्निजेंस लिया था और उनके खिलाफ भी एक्शन लिया था। इसी तरीके से अभी हाल ही में थोड़ा टाइम पहले रेगुलेशन इन कोचिंग सेक्टर फॉर मिसलीडिंग एडवर्टाइजमेंट, दैट दीज गाइडलाइन रिक्वायर्ड कोचिंग इंस्टीट्यूट टू प्रोवाइड एक्यूरेट इंफॉर्मेशन अबाउट देयर सक्सेस रेट एंड प्रोवाइडेड claims of guaranteed job placement और 100% सिलेक्शन रेट। और यहाँ तक कि अभी हम लोग ऐसा भी देख रहे हैं, अभी हमने कंप्लेंट फूड डिपार्टमेंट को की है। हमने अभी एक ऐसा विज्ञापन देखा है जिसमें एक बच्चे के 720 में से 720 नंबर आए नीट के अंदर, और उसके ऊपर स्टार बना हुआ है। 720 में से 720 नंबर आए, स्टार बना के उन्होंने नीचे लिख रखा है, उसके अंदर स्टार को उसको उन्होंने एलोब्रेट कर रखा है। उसमें उन्होंने ये लिखा कि एज पर द इंस्टीट्यूट, कोचिंग इंस्टीट्यूट ने जो अपना मूल्यांकन किया, वैल्यूएशन निकाली है, उसके हिसाब से 720 नंबर हमारे आ रहे हैं बच्चे के, जबकि वास्तविकता में रिजल्ट तो आया ही नहीं था। उससे पहले उन्होंने विज्ञापन दिए कि बच्चों को मिसलीड करने का काम शुरू कर दिया। नेक्स्ट स्लाइड प्लीज। थैंक यू। और बहुत सारी बातें हैं। अभिषेक जी हमारे वाइस चेयरमैन है कंज्यूमर कोऑर्डिनेशन काउंसिल के, और एडवोकेट भी हैं, लखनऊ से हैं, तो मैं चाहूंगा कि उनकी भी बात हम सुनना चाहेंगे। थैंक यू श्रीधर जी, आपने बुलाया।
वेरी गुड,
थैंक यू।
very good evening from consumer organization. I am Akshay Srivastava representing Consumer Guild, and I was also a Consumer Coordination Council past chairman. And it is only Mr. Anil Johri who taught us the little bit standard, what is the standard, what are the standards, and he is our chief patron also, and he time to time guides us how to do advocacy on these issues. So just legal wise, I would like to inform that Central Consumer Protection Authority under the Department of Consumer Affairs has notified guidelines for prevention of misleading advertisement and endorsement for misleading advertisement 2022. with an objective to curb misleading advertisement and protect the consumers who may be exploited or affected by such advertisements. And the guidelines seek to ensure that consumers are not being fooled with unsubstantiated claims, exaggerated promises, misinformation, and false claims. Such advertisement violates various rights of consumers, such as right to inform, right to choose, and right to be safeguarded against potentially unsafe products and services. Meanwhile, FSI also taken note of various media reports, including on social media, about various health claims made by food business operators in the country. In this regard, it is reiterated that the mandate of FSI is to lay down science-based standards for food products in the country and enforce the same. According, in order to regulate the advertisement and claims, the Food Safety Standard Authority of India has notified a regulation, Food Safety and Standards Advertisement and Claim Regulation 2018, under which deceptive claims or advertisement are prohibited and are punishable offence under Section 53 of Food Safety Standard Act 2006. Every claim, including the permitted nutrient-based claims under the same regulation, are required to meet the criteria stipulated in the same regulation, and no fake, no false or exaggerated health claims is permitted. Further, any nutrient function claims or any functional claims made on the food product are required to be based on the current and relevant scientific evidence. The claims made by any food business operator in relationship to health should strictly be in accordance with the conditions laid down in the regulation. And where a claimed health benefit is attributed directly to the product, it shall be based on statistically significant results from well-designed human intervention studies. And regarding consumer outreach programs, Food Safety Standard Authority of India already Eat Right India campaign and Eat Right campus campaign they are doing. They are involving all the relevant stakeholders to raise the awareness of consumer awareness. Like us who are working on consumer issues on various regulators, and we are working also in our most of the members are the committees on state food safety committees, district food safety committees. So we are doing our part, but it is a very big problem in country. Nowadays, misleading advertisement targeting children. Children, keeping in view sensitivity and vulnerability of children and severe impact advertisement make on the younger mind, several preemptive provisions have been laid down on advertisement targeting children. Guidelines forbid advertisement from exaggerating the feature of product in such manner as to lead children to have unrealistic expectation of such product or services and claim any health or nutritional claims or benefits without being adequately or scientifically substantiated by recognized body. So guidelines say that advertisement targeting children shall not feature any personalities from the field of sports, music, and cinema for products which under any law require a health warning for such advertisement or cannot be purchased by children. So both CCPA as a Department of Consumer Affairs and FSI under Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, both and regulators and departments are doing their part. But all the stakeholders should come together. Food safety officers also in the state level or central level, and consumer activists, consumer organizations like us, they can come together and work for the interest of consumer in large. So these are my only submissions, and I would like to thank Madam Rama Venugopal, Madam, who given us opportunity to speak on this very important topic. And I would also like to thank Mr. Anil Johri ji, who are associated with us regarding Bureau of Indian Standard Days, and they time to time give us guidance, and they give it and also give us opportunity to speak on various subjects related to consumer awareness and safety. And I would also like to thank Sridhar ji for this session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. Liaquat Ali and Mr. Abhishek ji. Now, I just have one question, which I think is very, very pertinent. On one hand, we have the best of policies, we have the best of regulators, we have everything in place. But what are we doing about the consumers? Because the consumer seems to be absolutely in the dark, not knowing anything about everything. So, what do we actually do? Especially this food related thing is becoming such a big challenge, and we all know it. Our children are so much addicted to food outside. So, what is it that we can actually do, or is there some platform where there is an outreach to consumers happening, where professionals like us can go volunteer and we can take the message out into the consumers? What is it that you suggest for that, sir?
Actually, Food Safety Authority of India as a regulator is doing so many activities. As I informed that, like Eat Right Campus, Eat Right India, they in these programs they invite all the stakeholders, and they also do some awareness programs, school, colleges, and these type of activities they are doing. And consumer organization, they are also doing some awareness program with the department or with their state food department, and also with the in the state or central level also. So my suggestion is that as a consultant or regulators and like consumer organization, they can work on this issue, because this is very important issue, and so much to done, I think so. Still,
एक
we
मिनट
have not.
अभिषेक जी, श्रीधर जी, एक मिनट। आपने जो बात बोली है, उपभोक्ता संगठन के नाते हम लोग एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण काम अभी कर रहे हैं। उसका लिंक मैं आपको भी भेजूंगा कि मिसलीडिंग एडवर्टाइजमेंट के बारे में कंज्यूमर कितना जानते हैं। इसके बारे में हम ऑनलाइन हमने गूगल सर्वे फॉर्म जारी किया हुआ है, और अभी हम सर्वे कर रहे हैं, और इसके माध्यम से हम ये कंज्यूमर से जानना चाह रहे हैं कि उन लोगों को कितनी जानकारी है मिसलीडिंग एडवर्टाइजमेंट के बारे में। कंज्यूमर प्रोटेक्शन एक्ट में उनको क्या राइट्स दिए हैं, क्या आज की इसके संबंध में कोई काम कर सकता है, गामा इसके बारे में कोई काम कर सकती है, कोई भी हेल्प हो सकती है, कितने लोगों को जानकारी है। अभी तक के जो परिणाम हम लोगों के सामने आए, बड़ी आश्चर्यजनक बात है, 95% लोगों को मिसलीडिंग एडवर्टाइजमेंट का मतलब ही पता नहीं है। बड़ी आश्चर्य की बात है। और अभी हम सर्वे हमारा कंटिन्यू है, अभी 15-20 दिन के अंदर हम लोग उसको कंप्लीट करेंगे। और वो क्योंकि उपभोक्ता संगठन के नाते हम लोगों की जिम्मेदारी है कि उपभोक्ताओं को हम अवेयर करें कि मिसलीडिंग एडवर्टाइजमेंट क्या है। आपने देखा होगा मिसलीडिंग सेलिब्रिटीज मिसलीडिंग एडवर्टाइजमेंट करते हैं। आपने देखा, हम एक समाचार पत्र के मुख्य पेज पे अक्सर एक विज्ञापन आता था जूही चावला का, केश कांति तेल को लेकर, कि 15 दिन के अंदर बाल बड़े कर लें। हमने उसकी शिकायत आस्की ने की, तो उन्होंने उसको विड्रॉ कर लिया। अब जूही चावला तो कम से कम उसका विज्ञापन नहीं करती है, दूसरी अननोन सेलिब्रिटीज को लाकर वो किसको विज्ञापन करवा रहे, वो ज्यादा बेटर समझते हैं। लेकिन हम लोग उपभोक्ता संगठन के नाते हम लोग अपनी जिम्मेदारी से काम कर रहे हैं।
Sure. So for those of us who don't understand Hindi, what Mr. Liaquat Ali mentioned is that they have started a very interesting campaign where they are collecting data and information and feedback from consumers about the awareness levels with respect to advertisements. And once that survey is conducted, they would have a lot of inputs coming in from the consumers about their awareness, which will definitely, as Mr. Ali mentioned, will feed back into the FSSAI activities on consumer awareness. He also spoke about one particular hair oil company where Mr. Ali and the CCC basically they were able to get them to withdraw the advertisement because it was misleading, promising hair growth in a very short period of time, and so on and so forth. So I think the bottom line that we learned from both these gentlemen today is that there is definitely a lot of scope for improvement in terms of creating awareness. Two, there are lots of regulations, there are lots of things sitting, lots of modules sitting here and there, but there has to be some body which is actually connecting all those dots and creating an impactful result-oriented activity. Any other questions from anybody else to Mr. Ali and Mr. Abhishek?
Just want no question. I just wanted to suggest when they are doing a survey, if it permits, if it is fine, they can also share it with us from that CCC to this CCC so that we can also take it forward and make it, more, try
Yes,
to get
madam.
more
Yes,
and more
yes,
responses, wider reach, because some of this, even
yes,
we
yes.
are also, we do have a responsibility to contribute. If it is fine, please do share with us. We will also get this done.
Okay.
Absolutely, very valid point, and we all look forward to participating in this survey, Liaquat ji. So let's work together and see what little we can achieve. So, in the interest of time, thank you so much, Liaquat Ali ji and Abhishek ji. I mean, it was a very interesting and I should say a very important point that you have brought out, because as you presented some of the mango and lychee drink, I couldn't shut off the video and hit myself on my head, because just recently I bought a bottle of that lychee drink that you were talking about without actually having read the label. So we ourselves, as so-called professionals, are guilty of being not conscious about what we are consuming. So thank you so much for your presentation, and we really look forward to many more such sessions, especially from the consumer level that you are interacting and working with. We would like to learn more about how we can all participate and work together on this journey. Thank you so much, Mr. Ali and Abhishek ji.
Thank you, sir.
Moving on, Priyanshu ji, as I mentioned earlier on, is the CTO of a technology startup, and they are doing a lot of interventions in the area of creating platform access to translating and implementing sustainable technologies and so on and so forth. And interestingly, he also works with multi-stakeholder areas, as his slide very clearly shows, works with NGOs, governments, and
Thought
universities
I
and
changed my
corporates and so on.
still showing his environment thing.
Yeah, and Priyanshu ji has a very interesting and important topic that he wants to share with us today, which is again a live example of how unaware we all are as consumers of food items. So over to you, Priyanshu ji, and we really look forward to your presentation, sir. Priyanshu ji. Oh, he's dropped off. I think he's dropped off. So you just give him a moment to reconnect. Oh, he's there, but Priyanshu ji, can you hear us?
No, I think he's got some technical issue. Maybe we'll just give him a sec.
Sure.
Because it's a kind of, this thing is not something to do with signals.
Oh yeah, I think there he is.
And Srinaji, also please take all speakers speak now, because Mr. Liaquat Ali and Mr. Abhishek are also waiting.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, good evening, everyone. And I think there's some problem with the connectivity, so that's how my link got disconnected. And thank you so much for giving this opportunity to interact. And it was I was there for last almost around 2 hours, and it's a big learning experience. And I come from a very different kind of a background. By qualification, I am a microbiologist. I was a researcher till around almost 10 years back. But then left a typical bench research and then moved into so-called entrepreneurship. That's the the ecosystem as it was developing. So I thought that let's take a plunge on that, and that's how we moved. And well, I'll not take much time, but then just to sort of pick on what Sridhar you had talked about regarding consumers, because that's how I would like to start my presentation. One of the we had started working on mushrooms. In fact, I don't know how many of you are aware, but then mushrooms are actually the only vegan source of vitamin D. Now, this revelation came to me when I was doing my research in an university in in UK, and I came back and started off that research where, because vitamin D, as you know, it's one of the most common problem. Like every other person is having vitamin D deficiency right now. And the best way is that you go out to the sun, but then because of our the lifestyle that we have and the work culture that we have, we hardly go out. So a very free resource which is available just out there, we don't go and use it, but then we pop in pills. So this actually motivated us to work on mushrooms, because in mushrooms is the only vegan vitamin which has vitamin D, or you can enhance vitamin D. So being from my research background, I basically started working on this, and we basically developed a technology where we can enhance vitamin D in mushrooms. Now, when I came to work with mushrooms, then I realized, and that was the context which I was coming to when I was talking about consumers. So, and I think it is also for all kinds of fruits and vegetables that you get to see in the market. What you or I, being a normal consumer, would go and choose and choice is the most round, white, best looking kind of fruits and vegetables. And in fact, we all know that those are the ones which are perhaps being treated with almost all kind of pesticides. Or in fact, let me focus on my own domain of working with mushrooms. You'll be very surprised that mushroom is actually in scientific term, it's hygroscopic. So it absorbs a lot of moisture, and whatever you sort of cover it or say, it'll all absorb it. And very interestingly, even the government of India guidelines for mushroom farmers, they say that after the mushrooms are you have to wash it. Now, when they wash it, they basically wash it with a lot of chemicals, they in a very common term, it's like they bleach it so that it becomes white, and it looks white. So when we came into the market and we started commercializing our product, we had such a difficult time to convince our consumers that, look, this slightly yellowish mushroom is not actually a bad mushroom. I'm just talking about the context. We had a discussion just before that consumers should be aware. You'll be very surprised that, almost like very rightly pointed out, most of us are not even aware what is whether the contaminants or every because of the regulations now, almost all the food this one are having FSSI guidelines. But then if you go and test those mushrooms, I'm very, again, specifically talking about mushrooms, you'll always have those pesticides and all which are available. And that's what we are basically consuming. So a lot needs to go into consumer awareness, be it, or else how do we sort of, and you rightly pointed out the role of influencers. And I basically come up from a startup where we are constantly forced to sort of, we need to increase our revenues, because we have been funded by a set of investors who like to look into the revenues growing up every month. And for that, influencers, social media, campaigns, those are something which is a norm. And and when I come to my this one, the whole idea of enhancing vitamin D in mushrooms and to sell that product as a say, which will be benefited to the consumer, was a major challenge, because we basically come from a typical research background. So obviously, we need to ensure that certain ethics and certain this one needs to be followed. So yeah, there is a constant dilemma, and I'm talking very upfront between the companies and particularly startups who are who are just trying to now. And you'll be very surprised, in the previous presentation there was some slides which have been showed on. I'll also just quickly give you some idea about what I wanted to talk about. So yeah, I'll quickly go through it. Is my slide visible?
Full screen mode, please.
Yeah, let me try to do it. Yeah, is it visible now?
Yeah, clear. Perfect.
Yes, I basically belong. I'm not going to bother you with this one, but then yeah, we are working with mushrooms, and we all know vitamin D deficiency. I'm skipping all those technology part. What we have done, I'm skipping. These are the kind of products which I'm basically coming to the problem which we small startups face when it comes down to competing with the big players which are already there, and because of the money as well as the so-called influencer, as you rightly pointed out, take away half the market which we normally try to capture. Now, yeah, there's a couple of products which we have. We basically, and I'll be coming to it, because this is something which is again very misleading information, misinterpretation of food safety laws in India, which is again one of the major problem which I just would like to point out from my perspective, or whatever, from a startup perspective. Now, we startups we have these issues of resource constraint. We have the problems of the FSSI guidelines are actually so complex. If you really want to see, if I really want to comply the FSSI guidelines, I'll have to shell out almost like 60 to 70,000 rupees almost every 3 months. But then how many of us actually do it? So it's like there's a requirement as per the FSSI laws that every 3 months we will have to submit the test report. So it can be even self this one, but then we need to do it. But then if you really want to do it, just for the example of mushrooms, as simple as mushrooms, the test which is required, which we need to do for almost 63 pesticides needs to be tested. And I heard a presentation from one of the food safety labs. If I ask a quotation, it will not be less than 60 to 70,000 rupees. So that's the kind of constraints which we currently work. So when we talk about food safety as well as misleading or say compliance, these are also some things which we really need to look upon and see how exactly we can actually subsidize this, so that at least we actually the smaller groups or smaller FBOs or smaller food business organization can actually comply to those rules and regulations which are there. So that's very important, because we can say that okay, these guys are not complying, but then it's practically not possible. We need to understand that like my revenue is around 4 to 5 lakh rupees a month. So if I spent like 65,000 rupees on a test, so you can imagine. So it's always bypassed by some way or other. So that is something which we need to really understand. And because this forum is we are talking about, we are all sort of learned consultants. So this is something which we really need to look upon. And I'll not go too much into it, but then I just want to highlight a couple of things because of which we always face this problem. And misinterpretation mainly happen either in terms of ingredients, and it was highlighted quite well in the previous slide where he had talked about how exactly organic is something and like when I go to the customers, they say that, or even to our aggregators who are doing organic this one, you cannot make organic mushrooms. It's impossible to make organic mushrooms. So something is of that sort. So unless and until, but then still they basically listed somehow over there. Being a researcher, being into this field for last so many years, I know that it's literally impossible if you go by the typical paradigm of how exactly organic certification is done. Another big this one is locally sourced, which is now coming up in a big way. We all say that it's locally sourced, but then we all know that it's impossible. Like to get even simple, like get apples in Delhi or to Chennai at this point of time is literally impossible. Or say to get mangoes in winter, that's how this entire thing works out. But then that's how basically this is also a kind of a misinterpretation. Health claims is another big issue. And then obviously one of the major issue comes down to false advertising of nutrient content. And that's what even we look into very closely, because we talk about vitamin D in our products. And vitamin D, as you know, it's also toxic. That's the reason why doctors after they will tell you that, okay, you use 60,000 IU for a month and then stop it for a month. Then again, you use it. Because if you have too much of vitamin D, that also impacts your kidneys. So now all those parameters, because vitamin D is fat soluble. Now, because it is fat soluble, if you take too much of vitamin D, it doesn't get vitamin C is water soluble. So it doesn't matter how much vitamin C you take, the additional vitamin C will flush out through your body. But then vitamin D cannot. So these are just a couple of things which is important. And there's the moment I say that, okay, my cookies have around 100 IU of vitamin D, the consumer will say, okay, why not say around 1,000? Why are you keeping it at 100? But then those are the things which it's very important, because if you have too much of that particular nutrient, then also it's bad. Same goes for iron. We have iron fortified things now. We have so many whether it's required, we don't even know. So that's another big thing, which is, and in fact, we heard Mr. Ali talking about the survey. I think these are also a couple of things which can be incorporated in the survey to understand, because anything which is more is also harmful than not having that particular thing. And biofortification is something that's a big hype nowadays. You're trying to fortify everything with even if you don't require. So these are the things, though it is a slightly subtle way of misinterpreting the laws, but then this is how it happens. So I just thought that I'll highlight these points because these are the things which we keep on facing. And one of the major, I'll not go into the all details, but then language and presentation is something which is again very, very, and that's where the role of influencer comes in. That's where the role of social media comes in, where it leads to a lot of confusion. And we saw like, the lychee drink which I was talking about doesn't contain lychee at all. The mango drink. I'll also quickly give you 2-3 examples before I stop. Like, well, we all know about this brand, but then just for this one, I had blanked out the brand. But then they talk about NutriChoice herbs, and I have a cookie which also talks about an health cookie, and this is also supposed to be a health cookie. But then if you look into the ingredients, you'll see that the herb part is also only 0.01%. 0.1%. That is, rest is all atta. You have refined palm oil. You have almost everything, but then the whole thing which you're marketing is basically the herbal cookies. It's actually having only 0.1% of what you are, and they can sell it at much lower rate than us because obviously that's the main ingredients is actually quite less. They already have a market. So I'm not going into detail. Similarly, cashew cookies. You look into the amount of cookies, it's 1.8%. Cashew nuts is there. And there are loads and loads of examples which we can talk about, but then I'm just trying to talk about like hazelnut spread. There's a brand which is talking about hazelnut, and you'll be very surprised it doesn't contain hazelnut at all. There is no hazelnut over here. If you look into it contains palm oil, it contains palm oil, and it is saying that nature identical flavoring, this one which is identical to hazelnut. So, but then basically it is being sold as hazelnut spread or something of that sort. So my point was basically over here, what I wanted to highlight over here is that it actually becomes very difficult when it comes to a business sense. It becomes very difficult for small, genuine, or say who are really wanted to work on, say, a healthy food sector to actually compete when this kind of big players are already there who have already captured the market, and they keep on coming up with this kind of so it's very important that we make people aware that and misleading of this is well, forget about the health part of it, but then it also impacts the businesses. So that's what I wanted to submit, and thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to discuss, to put forward my views. Thank you so much.
Muted. No, you're muted.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much again. And what I was mentioning was that thanks to CCC, I think we will not sleep today because because there's so much that we have to catch up in terms of what we need to do as professionals, as responsible professionals. And I think that survey would be a good place to start. And as Priyanshuji mentioned, we can include some more questions from your perspective as well. And then once we have a consolidated questionnaire ready, then we all take the responsibility of running it through a few whatever our own circles, and we'll try and gather as much as sample information as possible. Thank you so much again. And can I please request Liaquat ji and Abhishek ji to just pop up on the screen for a moment so we quickly take a picture. Liaquat ji.
Mr. Abhishek?
I think he's dropped off, I think.
And I think we're using the same link. It's the same handle. Maybe
yeah.
They're not there. Liaquat ji, are you there, Mr. Abhishek? Okay, fine. Fair enough. We can take with Priyanshu.
Okay.
Sure, Priyanshu ji is there. And
thank you so much for this opportunity.
Sure. Thank you so much. And I one last point, I just wanted to share an experience which I didn't speak about. For about 4 years, I did a project for a Dutch company engaging with more than 200 mango farmers in Maharashtra. And you won't believe it, once the project report was submitted, for a few years, I didn't eat mangoes. That was the effect the study had on. In fact, what happened is I also realized that I'm talking of Ratnagiri, the famous Alfonso mangoes. what I realized is that the big exporters, they have a farm that is very, very safe and sound, which they use for their family and their immediate circles. What is actually exported has anything and everything possible in terms of chemical contamination, and that's exactly what we have all been consuming. So with that, I think I rest my case, my dear friends and colleagues. Let's all do something phenomenal. Let's use CCC as a great platform, and let's all put in all our efforts there and support CCC in trying to achieve much more than what we could all have done as individuals. And thank you so much, Ramaji. I hand over the microphone back to you. Thank you so much, Aarti ji, as well. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks to all the participants, delegates who've been patiently, spending. I mean, I'm sure it's almost about 3 hours, 3.5 hours, close to.
Yeah.
So for the patient hearing and spending your time, and I must thank all the speakers for their contribution, for bringing those rich insights. As by default, as in principle, like we have taken a conscious decision that for all sessions, startups and young innovators should be included in all our sessions, and we always reach out to IIT Kanpur as the first choice. And so depending on the topics, we do. Last year also we had plant-based foods. There's an innovator, and then clean tech and all that. So generally we do, and we also help them with a little bit of go-to-market assistance that we can do. There is a question. I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, this is on why the action is not taken on the consumers. Now, this is something which I'm sure Mr. Liaquat Ali or Mr. Abhishek Srivastava can handle it. These are the common questions we keep asking Harish Magu sir in all the conversations, that why there is no enforcement, why there is no action. We will ask them to respond maybe later. We will write to them and we will get their response. There is no enforcement, simple. There's no enforcement because the market surveillance is whose responsibility? Whose responsibility it is to do a market surveillance? Now, who is giving the assurance? Regulator is giving the assurance, so they have to check. Now, all the conformity assessment bodies are also giving an assurance, but what are they checking? If these are all the things which are considered as violations and misleading, then what is it that the assurance teams are checking? So that is why regulatory and plus conformity assessments, because both of them are responsible for assurance, nobody else. Only they are responsible. There is no enforcement by the regulator for market surveillance, and CBs don't do market surveillance. Simple. At least market surveillance on their certified clients. And we're not asking them to do market surveillance for everybody. Of their certified clients, if they can do a proper market surveillance, they can also flag many issues. Anyhow, coming to the fag end of the session, I must, as I was mentioning, it takes a lot of time to prepare all this, create, compile, design. It's not easy to get this to us in a nutshell, in a capsule format, the days and days of hard work which was involved. And the June month, as I was mentioning, the November month are the key series that we do. These are the milestone months, knowledge sharing months for us. So we call this as June month knowledge series, and November we have November month knowledge series. That is when we celebrate a quality month actually. So throughout the month we create multiple topics. We try to create topics considering keeping all stakeholders in mind. And so this is how we do. As we said, it is not specific any sessions only with keeping certification bodies or only industry in mind. No, all stakeholders are involved. It is our small contribution to kind of help everybody to unlearn, relearn, and then, learn all the time. We are all moving towards more and more regulators defined mandates. The world over, the global call of action, especially after COVID, across the sectors is businesses, marketplace will be witnessing more and more regulatory rollouts, action plans. And this is not just in India, it's happening globally, and regulatory compliances are kind of, defining the spec on quality and safety.
True.
And so this is going to be the dimension. We can't say, it's no longer voluntary, and self-certifications. I'm sure you all must have seen misleading advertisements. Now there was a Supreme Court judgment asking all of them, all the advertisers, first of all, advertisement companies to come with a self-certification, self-declaration that, whatever they have to self-certify, self-declare that whatever advertisement they have designed, created for a particular brand is not misleading. Similar such declaration is even needed from influencers and celebrity ambassadors. They are left out actually. It's not going after advertisers alone will not help. So like this, all these things, you'll find more and more such frameworks and things happening, not necessary that businesses need a certification or a standard all the time. Even frameworks can be implemented. So all of us may not know what's happening around us because it's horizontally and vertically. We are seeing so many changes and challenges because there are a lot of issues with not only with the businesses, even with their supply chain also and with their value chain also. So gone are the days where a business can claim, I can only offer, say that, my business is compliant, but I'm not responsible for my contractors, for my suppliers, and for my value chain partners. It is no longer accepted. So when you say that your business is in compliance, your distribution networks, your supply chain networks, value chain networks, all of them also have to give that assurance. It's like a business saying, my finished good quality is good, but my incoming material, I don't know. Not acceptable. So these are all the changes which are happening. So this kind of conversations really help us to understand there are startups, there are micro businesses, small businesses, there are large and medium. In the sectors like food and agri products, you have more and more micro and small businesses operating. And but we have not seen much of solutions, innovative solutions. We are not seeing any of that. That is happening only in the startup world. Only the startups and young innovators, they're focusing so much on research. They are able to bring out many solutions. Markets otherwise have not seen much R&D or new products for many years. Of course, large enterprises and medium-sized businesses do focus something. So we will continue to do this kind of conversations. At the end of the day, each stakeholder is responsible directly or indirectly to offer that assurance to the consumer. When a consultant is working on a management system framework, he is equally responsible. He's advising a business, but the products, the end users are the consumers. So the consultant is equally responsible to ensure that, we have to flag all these issues, the things which are not in place and all that. So this is kind of connected conversations we are interested in creating to help everybody to learn and unlearn. So thank you so much. Thanks for joining us. So please do join us on June 11th, which is World Accreditation Day. Very, very interesting and exciting topics, which we have international accreditation bodies and multiple accreditation bodies. It's a very interesting topics we have created because many things are actually going wrong with the conformity assessment framework also, which need to be understood because ultimately the assurance is coming from them. So please do join us. Request all of you to visit that website, our CCC's website, and all the updates, speaker updates, program outline will be posted there. Thank you once again. So with this, we'll thank you, Aarti, for all the support and help, and Jori sir, heartfelt thanks to you for all the guidance and support. And it is like a circus for all of us, for the volunteers. It was not an easy task, but all of us have really kept aside our professional engagements and business engagements and wanted to really contribute towards this. So heartfelt thanks to all of you. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you. Jai Hind. Jai Hind. Jai Hind.
Logging off. Thank you.